Chapter 1439. Both of them did not use too much force and only heavily injured the monks. Although they lost the ability to continue fighting, it was not fatal. Their inner energy was limited and could not be wasted. They wanted to use as little as possible. Both of them had no intention of cultivating together again. Once they left the ravine, it was as if they were in another world. The environment was different and the state of mind was different. It was impossible for them to cultivate the supreme diamond scripture again. Namo Amitabha. Dozens of red-robed monks rushed out of the temple. They put their palms together and moved silently but quickly. Their Buddhist chants echoed throughout the reincarnation temple. Streaks of white and black light flickered as the sun and moon wheels danced in the air, covering the two of them. Ding ding. Their fists and palms hit the sun and moon wheels. Bang bang. They hit the owner of the sun and moon wheels and hung them on the wall. The walls of the huge monastery were already filled with red-robed monks. They were neatly spread out, and it was a magnificent sight. The monks' sorrowful chants echoed and shook the entire reincarnation temple. They had never been humiliated like this. Nameless karmic fire burned fiercely. They wanted to kill Chu Li and Sun Mingyue with the reincarnation palm. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue shook their heads. The reincarnation temple was powerful indeed. There were many top-notch masters coming out of the temple. They were getting older and their cultivation level was getting higher. They looked at each other. If this went on, they would be exhausted by the monks of the reincarnation temple before they could see old monk Luan Ming. Chu Li turned his head and said, "I'm going to use the musical assassination technique." Sun Mingyue nodded. The rich inner energy quickly circulated according to the musical assassination technique. Then, there was a long whistle that shook the heavens and the clouds. It was as if the surroundings of the reincarnation temple were shattered. The reincarnation temple quieted down and the Sanskrit chants disappeared. The red-robed monks who were rushing out swayed as if they were drunk. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue transformed into phantoms and sent the monks outside the temple flying. The walls of the reincarnation temple were filled with hanging objects, leaving no room for anyone to hang on. The monks in the temple swayed as if they were drunk. They could not withstand the musical assassination technique. The musical assassination technique activated by the rich inner energy was no different from an enlightened master's attack. There were very few monks in the reincarnation temple who could withstand a strike from an enlightened master. Most of them collapsed and sat down cross-legged to heal their injuries. Otherwise, their injuries would be too severe to recover and might even endanger their lives. The entire world fell silent, and there were no more red-robed monks. Chu Li smiled at Sun Mingyue and said, "This is how it should be from the beginning." Sun Mingyue rolled her eyes at him. At the beginning, there weren't that many monks coming out. It would be a waste to do so, and it would be better to just knock them down. The monks hanging on the wall revealed pained expressions and began to vomit blood. Their injuries worsened. However, Chu Li had avoided their positions while he was howling, so he was the least affected and would not lose his life. Namo Amitabha. An old monk walked out slowly and stopped in front of the two of them. Chu Li said, "If old monk Luan Ming doesn't return soon, the reincarnation temple will really be destroyed." The reincarnation temple cannot be destroyed. The old monk was skinny as if he could be blown away by a gust of wind. His face was thin, and he had 3 wisps of beard under his chin. He had a sage-like aura. A string of prayer beads the size of a baby's fist hung around his neck. They were so dark that they seemed to be able to steal all the light from the surroundings, and people could not help but stare at them. Chu Li took a closer look at the string of prayer beads and frowned. "Who are you, old monk?" "I'm Shanji," the old monk said slowly. Chu Li asked, "Shanji? What does that have to do with monk Jishan?" Shanji shook his head. "He's just a disciple. Jishan was harmed by you, right?" Chu Li smiled. "That's a joke. Monk Jishan has no grudge against me. Even if Jishan died, He would not admit that he was only here to take revenge on Monk Luan Ming for his sneak attack. Shan-Ji removed the black prayer beads from his neck slowly. Suddenly, the sound of chanting could be heard from inside the temple. Then, the monks who were healing on the ground started chanting as well. Even the monks hanging on the wall started chanting as well. They were chanting the same Buddhist scripture. The string of black Buddhist beads immediately emitted a layer of faint brilliance. Shan-Ji suddenly threw the prayer beads at Chu Li and Sun Mingyue slowly and calmly. The chanting grew louder as the black prayer beads slowly shot toward the two of them. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue were on guard as the string of prayer beads was too powerful. Although they did not know what they were up to, they knew that it was not a small battle. Sun Mingyue lightly threw a punch. Bang! The divine light fist hit the prayer beads and a dull sound was heard. Then, the faint glow expanded and spread. The scenery in front of Sun Mingyue suddenly changed, and she was back in the 10 ultimate vitality lock formation. She knew that this was not good. Her mind was clear and she had fallen into Shan-Ji's trap. It could be an illusion or they could have been transported here through the void. She did not act on her own. Instead, she looked around and saw that her clothes were intact. It was the same as when she fought. Then, she looked at Chu Li. He was dressed the same. However, the two of them were in the cave. Chu Li? Sun Mingyue asked. Chu Li closed his eyes and shook his head. This is an illusion. Sun Mingyue frowned and was about to speak. Bang! Her back was hit and she was instantly sent flying. She was almost separated from Chu Li's palm. A strange force came from Chu Li's palm. The originally pure palm energy was instantly weakened when it came into contact with this force. It quickly melted like ice and snow meeting boiling water. Her internal organs quickly recovered to their original state. She knew that Shan-Ji had sneaked an attack on her, but she could not see him. She was still in the cave and could not escape the illusion. She was extremely surprised. In terms of the strength of the soul, she was blessed by nature. She was gifted and no one could surpass her except Chu Li. Even her master's talent was far inferior to hers. Logically, this kind of illusion was the hardest to enchant, but she could not break free from it. Could the secret skill of the reincarnation temple be so powerful? Moo! Chu Li suddenly shouted. Sun Mingyue's vision changed and became clear again. Shan-Ji was hitting her chest with his palm. Bang! She threw out her divine light fist and Shan-Ji was instantly sent flying. The Sanskrit chanting suddenly became louder. Sun Mingyue's vision changed again, and she was back in the cave. A warm feeling lingered in her heart, but it made her even angrier. She wanted to kill this Shan-Ji. Chu Li closed his eyes. His beard and hair fluttered and his clothes fluttered. It was as if he was in a strong wind. His expression was solemn as he made a seal with one hand. Ma! He shouted. His voice was like a bronze bell that drowned out the Sanskrit chanting of the monk. Sun Mingyue's vision returned to normal. She saw Shan-Ji stand up and wipe the corner of his mouth before he pounced at her again. She sneered and threw another punch. This Shan-Ji was able to take her punch. His cultivation level was really high. Unfortunately, no matter how high he could not take a second punch. Namo Amitabha. A loud Buddha's name was suddenly heard. A palm energy that covered the sky and the earth met Sun Mingyue. Bang! Sun Mingyue felt a mighty force coming from the palm. Her body could not help but be sent flying. Chapter 1440. Chu Li kept the prayer beads in his sleeve and looked at Monk Luan Ming. Monk, we're here for revenge. Namo Amitabha. Monk Luan Ming pressed his palms together and smiled. Almsgivers, you've benefited from your misfortune. Looks like that ravine is a place of fortuitous encounters. I'm curious to find out what's inside. As an enlightened master, his senses were extremely sensitive. He was in sync with the heavens and the earth. He did not expect that this ominous sign would come from these two. 2 months ago, they were just top-notch grandmasters who could not even withstand a single blow from him. Now that they were working together, he felt a sense of danger. It was obvious that their fortuitous encounters had greatly improved their cultivation. It was obvious that these two had a fortuitous encounter in that ravine. That was why they came to seek revenge. He smiled. I'll send someone to check it out. Chu Li chuckled. We really did have a fortuitous encounter. Monk, why don't you send someone to check it out? However, the person who goes might not be as lucky as us. You should know that fortuitous encounters come hand in hand with danger. Namo Amitba, Monk Luan Ming said slowly. This is the truth of heaven and earth. Chu Li said, You're an enlightened master, but you ambushed us. If I don't get my revenge, I won't be able to calm down. I'm here to seek revenge. Monk Luan Ming, why did you run away and embarrass the enlightened masters? I'm just out for some business. Monk Luan Ming shook his head and smiled. No matter how weak I am, I won't be afraid of the two of you. Chu Li smiled. Whether I'm afraid or not, you know it yourself. Watch my palm. He struck with his palm. Monk Luan Ming dodged to the side, but Sun Mingyue's silent punch had already arrived. Bam! Monk Luan Ming reached out to receive the punch. The three of them each took a step back. Great, enlightened masters are really powerful, Chu Li said excitedly. He was finally certain that they could fight enlightened masters. Instantly, his fighting spirit surged. He had wanted to deal with enlightened masters for a long time. They had pressured him too much. If he could not break their mysteriousness and power, it would be difficult for him to become an enlightened master. Bam 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 bam. Fist and palm collided. Every time a dull explosion was heard, it was as if thunder had exploded beside their ears. The monks from the reincarnation temple who were healing vomited blood. The explosive sound of the collision was enough to cause them to suffer internal injuries. If not for the efficacy of the secret medicine of the reincarnation temple, they would have died and their souls returned to the reincarnation temple. Although Chu Li and Sun Mingyue were a pair, they could only use two hands. Compared to Monk Luan Ming, they did not have any advantage. However, the flow of energy between the two of them, their minds were one, and their transformation of energy was better. For a moment, the three of them were in a deadlock. Fists and palms came and went, but they couldn't suppress each other. Chu Li suddenly felt that something was amiss and quickly shouted, Be careful! A surging palm energy suddenly appeared and struck the two people's tightly clenched palms. Chu Li turned around and countered with a palm strike. However, it was already too late. The palm was too fast. His body had only turned halfway when the palm energy arrived. Bang! The palm force was extremely fierce and overbearing, wanting to shake off the two's tightly clasped hands. Both of their auras slowed down, and they were no longer at their peak. Monk Luan Ming followed up with two palm strikes. Wherever the reincarnation palm force passed, there would be faint ripples in the surroundings. The air seemed to have turned into lake water. Bang! Chu Li's palm met with the person who attacked him, and Sun Mingyue's fist met with the reincarnation palm. The two of them flew 10 meters away and crashed into a huge pine tree. At this moment, the person who attacked them appeared. He was dressed in a bright yellow robe, and his body was tall and straight like a pine tree standing in the void. He was a handsome middle-aged man with a jade-like face and a deep sense of majesty. He stood side by side with Monk Luan Ming, quietly watching Chu Li and Sun Mingyue. Even though they almost vomited blood from the impact, they still did not let go of each other. Once they let go, their strength would plummet, and it would be difficult to deal with the two enlightened masters. Chu Li said in a deep voice, "The Qiu dynasty's emperor?" The handsome middle-aged man placed his hands behind his back, and his bright yellow robe fluttered. He said slowly, "I am the Qiu dynasty's emperor. Who are you?" Chu Li frowned. "I am Chu Li from the Ji dynasty." He knew that the Qiu dynasty's emperor's surname was Chen Jinji. The Ji dynasty? Chen Jinji sized him up with a calm gaze and nodded slowly. "I have heard of your name. The Ji Dynasty's #1 youth master, you live up to your reputation. He glanced at Sun Mingyue. Monk Luanming smiled. Your Majesty, this is the saint of the Li Dynasty's Holy Church of Light. Chen Jinji was shocked. The Li Dynasty and the Ji Dynasty? As far as he knew, the two nations were mortal enemies, and their relationship was even worse than that of the Qiu Dynasty and the Li Dynasty. It was impossible for them to work together. Looking at the two of them holding each other's hands tightly, it was clear that they were a couple. Furthermore, both of their statuses were incredible. Since they were together, it would definitely cause a huge storm if it was made known to the world. The relationship between the Qiu Dynasty and the Ji Dynasty was not bad. They befriended the distant Li Dynasty and attacked the nearby ones. Because the Qiu Dynasty and the Ji Dynasty had a common enemy, the Li Dynasty, they often cooperated with each other even though the Qiu Dynasty looked down on the Ji Dynasty. Chu Li muttered, I didn't expect the two of you to join forces. If the two of you can join hands, what's so strange about me joining hands with Master Luanming? Chen Jinji smiled with his hands behind his back. You're so young, yet you're able to stop us. Master Luanming feels that you're a threat, so he asked for my help. Chu Li frowned. It seems like the two of you want to get rid of us. Not bad. Chen Jinji said slowly. As grandmasters, you can threaten enlightened masters. How can I rest in peace if I don't get rid of you? He was extremely fearful of Chu Li and Sun Mingyue. As an enlightened master, there were many restrictions. Usually, they could not attack grandmasters unless their families' lives were in danger. However, Chu Li and Sun Mingyue were not enlightened masters, so they were not bound by the heavenly rules and could kill at will. In this way, if the two of them wanted to destroy the Qiu Dynasty's foundation, no one could stop them other than himself and Monk Luanming. Even if they wanted to stop them, it would be difficult. The two of them could appear and disappear unpredictably. They could kill with one palm strike and escape after that, so it would be difficult to catch up. Even if they caught up and fought, they might not be able to stop them. The battle between enlightened masters was earth-shattering, and the aftermath could kill grandmasters. Killing grandmasters was as easy as flipping one's hand, so the two of them must be eliminated. Otherwise, the Qiu Dynasty would never have a peaceful day. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue's aura circulated and quickly returned to normal. Although the enlightened master's attack was fierce, the two's mellow aura was extremely strange. They could actually block it and even dissipate it. However, after this attack, the two's mellow aura was rapidly consumed, and they could not hold on for long. Chu Li said, Then let's experience the power of an enlightened master. As soon as he said that, he punched out with the Divine Light Fist. Sun Mingyue also used the Divine Light Fist. The two of them had the same heart technique, so when they activated the mellow aura, it was exceptionally smooth and their power was greatly increased. It was actually stronger than their palm and fist. Bam 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 bam. Chen Jinji and Monk Luanming clashed head-on. Where the palm energy met, the sky rippled and then spread out. Wherever the ripples passed, everything was blasted away. A layer of golden light appeared in the sky above the reincarnation temple and turned into a golden sphere that enveloped the temple. Wherever the ripples passed, the golden splendor flashed and blocked the ripples' erosion. As for the places that were not blocked by the golden splendor, the soil on the ground was swept up, and the trees were directly blasted into pieces. In a short while, the 100-meter radius around them became barren. Not a single blade of grass remained, and the trees were gone. Chapter 1441. Namo Amitba. Monk Luanming instantly appeared in the air 100 feet away. His red cowl fluttered in the wind. He ignored the blood at the corner of his mouth and put his palms together as he stared at a certain spot in the air. A white figure suddenly appeared in the air and stood there quietly. His clothes were as white as snow and his face was covered with a white veil. Only a pair of gem-like eyes could be seen. Master! Sun Mingyue was shocked. Chu Li shook his head helplessly. The bishop of the Holy Church of Light, Song Wanqing, scoffed. You're an enlightened master, but you're so shameless. Chen Jinji sighed and shook his head. No wonder the old monk asked for my help. It's because of Miss Song. Song Wanqing did not even look at him. She stared at Monk Luan Ming. Old monk, you've got guts. Monk Luan Ming put his palms together and smiled. You flatter me. Who gave you the guts to plot against my disciple? I'll tear your old bones apart today, and send you straight to the Grandmaster's boundary. Song Wanqing said coldly. Almsgiver Song, I didn't kill her. I was just warning your disciple. Otherwise, she would have been dead. Monk Luan Ming shook his head. You're a monk, spouting nonsense the moment you open your mouth. Song Wanqing laughed coldly. If it wasn't for Mingyue's deep cultivation, she wouldn't have been able to take a hit from you. It's not that you didn't want to kill her, it's that you couldn't. Namo Amitba. Monk Luan Ming shook his head. Almsgiver Song has misunderstood me too much. Bullsh *T. Song Wanqing shouted. Misunderstanding. She turned and stared at Chen Jinji. If you can kill my disciple, then I can also kill your son? Miss Song. Chen Jinji shook his head. That's against the rules. You're the ones who broke the rules first. If anything happens to Mingyue, I'll bury the entire Chen clan with her. I'll do what I say. Song Wanqing said coldly. Chen Jinji shook his head. I didn't mean to kill her. Song Wanqing was not a reasonable person, and she was extremely protective. If he really killed Sun Mingyue, his Chen clan would indeed be in danger, so his idea was to cripple Sun Mingyue's martial arts. However, judging from the few moves they had exchanged, Sun Mingyue and Chu Li could only unleash such power when they worked together. Once the two of them were separated, they would not be able to unleash such power. In that case, the threat would be greatly reduced. Moreover, the best way was to kill Chu Li. No matter how strong Sun Mingyue was, there was nothing she could do. His mind raced, but he remained calm. Chu Li frowned as he glanced at him. He could vaguely guess what he was thinking. It seemed like he had to go to Goddess Attraction Mountain, or else he would be doomed. Song Wanqing stared at Chu Li a few times. Chu Li smiled and nodded, but he did not let go of Sun Mingyue's hand. Sun Mingyue held his hand tightly, afraid that he would let go. Once she let go, she did not know what her master would do. Would he take the opportunity to get rid of Chu Li with the three of them? Monk Luan Ming smiled and said, Almsgiver Song, please enter the temple and have a cup of tea. I don't dare to drink from your reincarnation temple. Song Wanqing sneered. Luan Ming, you're despicable and shameless. You might even plot against me. Let's call it a day. She then glanced at Chen Jinji. What do you think? Chen Jinji smiled and nodded. I'll leave it to you, Miss Song. You make it sound so nice. Song Wanqing sneered and looked at Sun Mingyue. Let's go back. Sun Mingyue nodded and disappeared in front of everyone with Chu Li. Song Wanqing stared coldly at Chen Jinji and Monk Luan Ming before slowly disappearing into the void. Seeing that the three of them had disappeared, Monk Luan Ming put his palms together and sighed. It's really the misfortune of the Qiu dynasty and the reincarnation temple. Master, there's no need to be like this. The reincarnation temple didn't suffer any casualties. Chen Jinji smiled. It seems like these two young fellows know their limit. Although there weren't any casualties, their strength was greatly reduced. This technique is extremely vicious. Monk Luan Ming sighed. The monks of the reincarnation temple did not die, but it would not be easy to recover from such serious injuries. Firstly, it would require a huge amount of spirit pills. Secondly, it would take time. There were even some who could not recover and their martial arts would be crippled, requiring them to cultivate again. In short, the reincarnation temple had suffered a heavy blow this time. It would take a long time for them to recover. Seeing this, Chen Jinji was secretly happy. It was not a good thing for the reincarnation temple to be too powerful. It was not a good thing for the imperial family and the imperial court. Now that the reincarnation temple was injured, it was time for the imperial family and the imperial court to strengthen their forces. In a gazebo in a small courtyard at Great Light Peak, Song Wanqing sat in front of a stone table and sized him up with a cold gaze. Chu Li looked at her calmly and did not say a word. Song Wanqing also remained silent. After a while, Chu Li gave a fist salute. "Thank you for saving me, senior. It was extremely dangerous this time." 2 enlightened masters had joined forces. The 2 of them might be able to hold them off for now, but as the mellow aura weakened or even disappeared, the 2 of them would definitely lose and even lose their lives. The aura accumulated in their 6 wheels was enough to deal with an enlightened master but not 2 enlightened masters. More importantly, the 2 enlightened masters had joined forces. Not only could the 2 of them not kill each other, but they would also be killed instead. After all, the 2 of them were not enlightened masters. "I'm not saving you, I'm saving Mingyue," Song Wanqing scoffed. Chu Li nodded. Song Wanqing said, "You're in great danger now. You can only hide at Great Light Peak." Chu Li smiled. "I want to go to Goddess Attraction Mountain." Goddess Attraction Mountain. Song Wanqing's expression changed slightly. She said impatiently, "Do you think it's that easy to enter Goddess Attraction Mountain?" Chu Li said, "You won't know until you try." "It's not that easy to enter Goddess Attraction Mountain." Song Wanqing scoffed. "They can only protect you for a year. After a year, you'll still have to die. Outer Mountain disciples could only stay for a year. This was a rule of Goddess Attraction Mountain, and no one could be exempted from it." Chu Li smiled. "Who knows what will happen after a year? After a year, Mingyue will become an enlightened master," Song Wanqing said. "You're no longer worthy of Mingyue." Chu Li nodded and did not refute her. Song Wanqing scoffed. "You entered Goddess Attraction Mountain to cultivate the dragon taming technique and become a god, right?" Chu Li looked at her in surprise. Song Wanqing said, "Do you think no one can guess what you're thinking?" Chu Li nodded slowly and did not deny it. If he did, it would be an insult to Song Wanqing's intelligence. Song Wanqing scoffed. "But others didn't expect you to be so ambitious. They all thought you entered Goddess Attraction Mountain to avoid being hunted and become an enlightened master." Chu Li nodded. He was now the #1 master in the Ji dynasty under 100 years. It was difficult for masters from the Tempest Temple to surpass him. He was halfway to becoming an enlightened master. Even the Crown Prince was no match for him. He would definitely become an enlightened master. However, his backing was too weak. The High Duke's public house could not protect him. No one knew that he was a disciple of Amethyst Mountain. As a result, the Tempest Temple would definitely hunt him down. Based on his friendship with Fa Yuan, they might not kill him, but they would definitely weaken his martial arts. They might even cripple his martial arts, which would reduce his chance of becoming an enlightened master and keep him in the Tempest Temple. It was not just the Tempest Temple. The Green Deer Cliff might not be willing to submit. They might also have disciples with profound cultivation levels. In short, other than the Titanium Temple, the other 3 sects were not easy to deal with. "Alright, if you can become an enlightened master, Mingyue can be a concubine," Song Wanqing said. Chapter 1442. He did not expect Song Wanqing to say this. He initially thought that she would use her identity as an enlightened master to force him to make a decision and marry into the Great Light Peak to assist Sun Mingyue. Song Wanqing said, "If you can become a god, Mingyue won't feel bad becoming your woman, even if she's an enlightened master." Chu Li took a deep breath and swallowed the words that were at the tip of his tongue. He knew that if he really rejected this, not only would Sun Mingyue lose face, but Song Wanqing would not let him go and might even deal with Shao Qi. Instead of that, it was better to put it aside. Song Wanqing did not have much time left in this world. She would soon ascend to the Grandmaster's boundary, so this matter would not be affected. Song Wanqing seemed to have read his mind and scoffed. Do you dare to admit that you don't like Mingyue at all? Chu Li was silent. No man could reject a woman like Sun Mingyue. Even if he had Shao Qi in his heart and tried his best to suppress his feelings, he could not deceive himself. Humph, you men! Song Wanqing sneered and cast a sidelong glance at him. Chu Li sighed. It's lonely at the top. The saint is quite pitiful. She's pitiful, but there are many more pitiful people in this world. Song Wanqing scoffed. If you pity her, treat her well in the future. Don't torture her. Chu Li remained silent and dared not agree. He did not dare to be greedy. He was able to obtain 2 women. Shao Qi and Sun Mingyue were both extraordinary women in the world. It was already a blessing to have one of them. If he wanted to have both of them, he would end up with nothing and God would punish his greed. He had no regrets having Shao Qi as his life was indeed worth it. Song Wanqing said, Forget it, it's useless to tell you this. Do you really want to become a god? Chu Li nodded slowly. Song Wanqing scoffed. It's rare for you to have such intentions, but you should know that no one has succeeded so far. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and nodded slowly. Song Wanqing said, The enemy you'll face is the Grandmaster's boundary. They won't allow you to become a god. Chu Li frowned at her. Song Wanqing said, Just like how the Fu dynasty treats the 4 nations, the Outland and our realm must maintain their suppression. What you'll have to face next is not only the Tempest Temple's pursuit, but also the Fu dynasties. Even if you hide in Goddess Attraction Mountain, you won't be completely safe. More importantly, you'll be pursued by the Outland. Hunted by the Grandmaster? Chu Li was stunned. Song Wanqing said, All the gods in the 5 nations have to listen to the skies beyond. If the skies beyond wants to kill you, then all the gods want to kill you, including me. Chu Li shook his head. I'm flattered. However, if you really can master the dragon control technique, I can help you. Song Wanqing said. Chu Li asked, Senior Song, why are you doing this? Because I can't stand the way the realm beyond Avalon does things. Song Wanqing sneered. As an enlightened master, your hands and feet are tied. You might as well be a grandmaster and be free and unfettered. How hateful! Chu Li nodded. Song Wanqing said, If you can successfully cultivate the dragon control technique, I will help you think of a way to obtain the other 3 sects' mental cultivation methods, so the key is the dragon control technique. This dragon control technique is not that easy to cultivate. Chu Li replied, I'll try my best. Song Wanqing said, If you want to successfully cultivate the dragon control technique, the requirements are too harsh, especially now that the spirit beasts have entered the 100,000 hills. It is even more impossible to cultivate the dragon control technique, so don't hold too much hope. Just stay at Goddess Attraction Mountain. If he could not defy nature and become a god, he could still become a god under the protection of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Although she said it was tasteless, it was still more freedom than the Grandmaster. From then on, his life would no longer be in danger. Chu Li said, Thank you, Senior Song. Song Wanqing waved her hand and said, When are you leaving? I'll leave now. Chu Li said, Go. Song Wanqing said, Talk to Mingyu and leave as soon as possible. Cultivate the dragon control technique as soon as possible. If I haven't mastered the dragon control technique by the time I ascend to heaven, I won't be able to help you anymore. Yes. Chu Li fist saluted and turned to leave the courtyard. He arrived at the Divine Light Basilica. The basilica was brightly lit, but it was deserted. Only Sun Mingyue was reading the scrolls. When she saw Chu Li enter, she sat behind the table and looked at him quietly. Chu Li sighed. I should go to Goddess Attraction Mountain. I'll send you there. Sun Mingyue said. No need. Chu Li shook his head. I'll be careful. Both of them knew that the road to Goddess Attraction Mountain was not easy. They might be intercepted along the way. Sun Mingyue frowned and stared at him. Chu Li said, I can't rely on you for everything. Being able to enter Goddess Attraction Mountain is already a great help. Besides, no one else knows about this, right? No. Sun Mingyue shook her head. How could this matter be spread out? There would be endless trouble. Then it's fine. Chu Li said. Sun Mingyue scoffed. Once you enter Goddess Attraction Mountain, you might be wronged. I hope you can bear it. Chu Li said, I used to be an unranked scribe of the High Duke's public house. It's easy to go up, but it's hard to go down. Sun Mingyue said, I hope you can bear it. What did Master say to you? Chu Li smiled. Senior Song warned me to be careful of all enlightened masters. Sun Mingyue stared at his face carefully and sighed in relief. She was most afraid that Song Wanqing would talk about her relationship with Chu Li and force him to leave Shao Qi and marry her. It's getting late. I'll set off now. Chu Li fist saluted. Take care, Saint. If you really need me, crush this pendant. He took out a crystal-clear jade talisman and handed it to her. Sun Mingyue took it and fiddled with it for a while before putting it in front of her chest. Then, she took out an iron tag from her sleeve and handed it to him. This is the entrance iron tag to Goddess Attraction Mountain. Anyone who holds this tag will become an outer disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain for a year. I've already told Goddess Attraction Mountain about your identity. You'll be using the name Chu Li. Chu Li smiled and fist saluted. Then, he turned around and strode out of Divine Light Basilica. He then disappeared and appeared at the exit of Great Light Peak with the appearance of Zhao Dai. He had been using this appearance to travel through the night. This identity was the safest way for him to avoid being hunted. Until now, no one knew that he was Zhao Dai. He traveled during the day and rested at night. He was not in a hurry as he leisurely made his way to Goddess Attraction Mountain. After traveling like this for 10 days, he arrived at the foot of a towering peak and looked up at Goddess Attraction Mountain. The towering peak towered into the sky. It was straight and did not have a slope. It was like a stone pillar that reached the sky. At first glance, he could only see the clouds and mist. He could not see the peak or how tall it was. Even with the omniscient mirror, Chu Li could not see how tall it was. This was the famous and mysterious Goddess Attraction Mountain. As he stood at the foot of the mountain, he could not help but want to kneel on the ground. He reached out and took out the iron tag. Suddenly, a ray of light appeared on the iron tag. Then, a force surged out of the iron tag and broke free from his hand. It floated in the air, and suddenly turned into a ray of dark light that shot into the mountainside of Goddess Attraction Mountain and disappeared. Chu Li frowned and pondered. It seemed that there was a formation carved on the iron tag. Otherwise, no matter how strong one's cultivation level was, it would be impossible to take away the iron tag from so far away. He had studied the iron tag along the way and noticed that there was a strange symbol carved on it. When the iron tag flashed earlier, the omniscient mirror had also seen the strange symbol flash. Chapter 1443. Chu Li stared at the metal plate, but it eventually left the coverage of the omniscient mirror and was thrown somewhere unknown. After a while, a clear cry came from the sky and 2 white cranes landed. Their huge wings stirred up a strong wind. Chu Li stood in the wind, his white robe flapping loudly as he looked at the handsome young man on the cranes. The 2 cranes were huge, 4 times the size of normal cranes. They stood taller than him and were even larger than the spirit cranes. Unfortunately, they only looked like that. Through the omniscient mirror, their strength and speed were far inferior to the spirit cranes, but they were a few times stronger than normal cranes. They were in between normal cranes and spirit cranes. A handsome young man in a yellow robe sat on one of the cranes, smiling at Chu Li. Chu Li fist saluted. I'm Chu Li. I'm Zhu Yuan from the Jing dynasty. The young man in the yellow robe floated down and fist saluted in front of Chu Li. Are you chosen by the Li dynasty's imperial family? Chu Li nodded. He already knew that every year, the imperial family would send a quota to Immortal Attraction Mountain to become an Outer Mountain disciple. Although Immortal Attraction Mountain did not care about secular affairs, if one could catch the eye of Immortal Attraction Mountain, they would receive great benefit. Hence, this quota was very popular. The name Chu Li sounds familiar. There's a Chu Li in the Ji dynasty, right? Zhu Yuan smiled. Chu Li smiled. That's me. Zhu Yuan smiled in surprise. The Ji dynasty and the Li dynasty are sworn enemies. How did they? Chu Li smiled and shook his head without saying anything. Zhu Yuan smiled. All right, I won't ask any more. Follow me. He floated onto one of the cranes and pointed at the other one. Chu Li glided and landed on the back of the white crane. The white crane shook a little before it stood up steadily. It was even more stable than riding a horse. There are already Ji dynasty's imperial family disciples on the mountain. You might know each other. Chu Li asked, which one? Lung Tao. Zhu Yuan smiled. You know him? Chu Li smiled and nodded. That's good. Let's go. Zhu Yuan smiled and patted the crane's neck. Suddenly, it spread its huge wings and flapped twice, stirring up a gust of wind. With one leg, it flew into the sky. The white crane behind Chu Li flew up as well. Although it was huge, its movements were light and graceful. It looked like a fairy. The two cranes swayed as they ascended, passing through the cold clouds, and finally landed in front of a palace on the mountainside. Chu Li looked into the distance and saw a palace at the peak of the mountain. It was not as big as this palace, but it had a glorious golden roof. It was as if all the sunlight had been absorbed into the palace. It was so dazzling that no one dared to look at it directly. As soon as Chu Li stepped into Goddess Attraction Mountain, he immediately felt that the spiritual energy was dense. Although it was not as dense as the 100,000 hills, it was far from comparable to the outside world. He stared at it and analyzed it carefully. The life and death scripture was very sensitive to spiritual qi, so he quickly analyzed that the spiritual qi here was 10 times that of the outside world. If he cultivated here, although he could not achieve 10 times the effect, he could achieve 4 or 5 times the effect. 10 years was equivalent to 50 years for others. Such a beautiful place was really attractive. In front of the huge palace was a meadow. Several white cranes were strolling leisurely, occasionally flying up and disappearing into the sky. There was no one in front of the main hall. After the two of them descended from the white crane, Zhu Yuan smiled and said, "This is where we will be staying." Chu Li looked at it. "Just the two of us?" "There are 3 more." Zhu Yuan smiled. "Lung Tao, Li Xuanxin, and Tang Zhao." Chu Li nodded and looked around. Zhu Yuan said, "They are busy feeding the spirit beasts." "Spirit beasts?" Chu Li was surprised. "There are spirit beasts here?" He looked around and activated the omniscient mirror. There were no spirit beasts in the palace. Zhu Yuan shook his head. "The spirit beasts are on the mountain, not here. The 5 of us are Outer Mountain disciples. Our mission is to feed the spirit beast." "What kind of spirit beasts are they?" Chu Li asked. Zhu Yuan said, "Spirit snakes." Chu Li frowned. Zhu Yuan sighed. "I heard that cultivating the dragon taming technique requires spirit snakes, or else it will be impossible to cultivate. However, this generation of Goddess Attraction Mountain disciples has a bad temper. We have to hold it in." Chu Li said, "So it's to feed spirit snakes. I heard that we can cultivate some techniques too. Is that true?" "We can cultivate." Zhu Yuan nodded. "Cultivate the spirit snake technique first. If we can cultivate it successfully, we can cultivate the dragon taming technique." Chu Li sighed in relief. Zhu Yuan shook his head. "But the spirit snake technique is extremely difficult to cultivate. I've been cultivating for half a month now, but I still haven't gotten the hang of it." The two of them talked as they walked into the palace. They passed through a basilica and arrived at a room in the backyard. "This is your residence. I'll live in the other room." This place is big, so you can pick a place to live. You can live wherever you want. Zhu Yuan smiled. Although it's a little lonely, it's still very relaxing. Can we leave the mountain whenever we want? Chu Li asked. Zhu Yuan nodded. Spirit snakes don't eat every day. Sometimes they don't need to be fed, so you can go out for 7 days. Goddess Attraction Mountain won't care about your whereabouts either. Chu Li smiled. That's freedom. If you want to cultivate more advanced martial arts, you need to cultivate the spirit snake technique first. If you can't cultivate the spirit snake technique well, you can't cultivate other martial arts. Goddess Attraction Mountain won't care if you want to cultivate it or not. Chu Li suddenly understood. And the best way to cultivate the spirit snake technique is to observe and figure out the spirit snake, Zhu Yuan said. That's why the 3 of them haven't returned yet. I'm here to welcome you. Chu Li smiled and closed fist saluted. Thank you, Brother Zhu. Zhu Yuan waved his hand. We'll be fellow disciples in the future. We'll take care of each other when we leave the mountain. No need to be so polite. Chu Li nodded. As they spoke, footsteps came from outside. The 3 of them strode in and saw Chu Li. Lung Tao was still chubby, but his face was solemn as if he was a different person. When he saw Chu Li, his eyes widened and he shouted in disbelief, Chu Li? Chu Li closed fist saluted and smiled. Imperial Crown Prince, you're here too? Lung Tao lost his voice. How can you be here? Zhu Yuan smiled. Brother Ling, Brother Chu is here on behalf of the Li dynasty's imperial family. Li dynasty? Impossible! Lung Tao shouted. Chu Li said, Imperial Crown Prince, you don't have to be surprised. I really did snatch this spot from the Li dynasty's imperial family. Impossible! Lung Tao shook his head. Chu Li ignored him and turned to look at the other 2 young men. One of them was burly and looked simple and honest, while the other was handsome and had a strong aura. Come, let me introduce you. Zhu Yuan smiled. This is Tang Zhao from the Fu dynasty, and this is Li Xuanxin from the Qiu dynasty. Chu Li closed fist saluted and smiled. Nice to meet you, I'm Chu Li. The 2 men's expressions changed. Chu Li's name was not to be underestimated. Both of them did not stay in the mountain all the time and often left the mountain, so they were very familiar with this name. Zhu Yuan smiled. This is Chu Li from the Ji dynasty. Nice to meet you. The 2 men closed fist saluted. Lung Tao suddenly shouted, Chu Li, so you're colluding with the Li dynasty? Chu Li said angrily, Yes, I'm colluding with the Li dynasty. Lung Tao was overjoyed. You finally admitted it. Chapter 1444. The ecstasy on Ling Tao's face froze. An awkward expression appeared on his chubby white face, and he snorted sternly, I really didn't expect Head Chief Chu to be from the Li dynasty. Chu Li replied lazily, I'm from the High Duke's public house. Since when did I become from the Li dynasty? Imperial Crown Prince, think carefully before you speak. Don't just say ridiculous things. Lung Tao scoffed. If you're not from the Li dynasty, how did you get the quota? There are many ways to get the quota. Chu Li said, I'm surprised that you came to Goddess Attraction Mountain. I thought it would be Prince Ling Feng, I didn't expect it to be you. Ling Feng won't come. You must have made a deal with the Li dynasty. You must have betrayed the Ji dynasty. Lung Tao said. Imperial Crown Prince, you're being too nosy, Chu Li said. Lung Tao puffed out his chest. As a disciple of the Ji dynasty's imperial family, how can I let you do whatever you want? Chu Li ignored him and fist saluted Tang Zhao and Li Xuanxin. Thank you for your guidance. We wouldn't dare. Both of them were rather cold. Chu Li smiled. He suppressed the Fu dynasty's young disciples to the point that they could not lift their heads, so Fu dynasty's Tang Zhao was hostile. Chu Li must have a close relationship with the Li dynasty's imperial family since the Qiu dynasty and the Li dynasty had a bad relationship, so Qiu dynasty's Li Xuanxin was hostile too. Ling Tao stared at him and scoffed. Chu Li, I'll spread this news and your name will be infamous. Chu Li furrowed his brows and glared at him unhappily. A flash of electricity flashed across his eyes. Ling Tao felt his body tense up and his hair stood up. He could not help but avoid his gaze. Chu Li scoffed. Imperial Crown Prince, I'm sure you're smart. I'll definitely report this. Ling Tao scoffed. Unless you kill me. Chu Li smiled. Why would I kill you over such a small matter? I didn't plan to hide this and I can't hide it anyway. This has nothing to do with the Li dynasty, it's because of the saint of the Holy Church of Light. I'm just friends with the saint. Humph, Holy Church of Light? Ling Tao scoffed. You and the Holy Church of Light are irreconcilable enemies. How can you be related to the Holy Church of Light? Moreover, you are friends with the saint of the Holy Church of Light. He knew that Chu Li had killed many disciples of the Holy Church of Light and that the Holy Church of Light had sought revenge on him. Chu Li shook his head. How can there be an eternal enemy? You don't need to know about this. I've just arrived, so I'm here to pay my respects to the inner mountain disciples of Goddess Attraction Mountain, right? Tomorrow. Zhu Yuan shook his head and said, Senior Brother Zhou is in closed-door training. He will come out tomorrow, so you won't be able to see him even if you go now. Chu Li nodded. Zhu Yuan and the others quickly left, leaving Chu Li alone in the courtyard. Chu Li's omniscient mirror followed them closely. He saw Tang Zhao and Li Xuanxin's gloomy faces, and Ling Tao's expression was also unpleasant. They were very vigilant towards Chu Li's arrival. Zhu Yuan, on the other hand, looked indifferent. Chu Li entered the house. The simple house had everything he needed. The bedding was clean and spotless, and there were even a few martial arts secret manuals on the desk. He flipped through them casually and lost interest. He did not lack secret manuals, but he lacked the dragon taming technique. The night passed uneventfully. The next morning, he was practicing his fist art in the courtyard when Zhu Yuan appeared and said with a smile, Brother Chu, let's pay our respects to Senior Brother Zhou. Chu Li withdrew his stance and changed into a new set of clothes. Then, he followed Zhu Yuan and rode on the white crane once again. As they flew upward, the temperature suddenly dropped. It was as if autumn had turned into winter. White mist rose from their breaths, and the wind that blew against their faces was like a knife. The white crane landed in front of a palace at the peak of the mountain. The temperature suddenly rose as if it was spring. The surrounding flowers and plants were lush, and a delicate fragrance wafted through the air. The solemn palace was somewhat similar to an imperial palace. It was built on the top of the mountain and bathed in the sunlight. The glazed tiles of the palace shone with a golden light, forcing people to close their eyes. They could only see the situation in front of the palace if they lowered their heads. Zhu Yuan turned his head and whispered to him, Senior Brother Zhou has a bad temper. Just listen to what he says and don't make him angry. Chu Li nodded. Zhu Yuan arrived at the bottom of the 100 steps and said, Senior Brother Zhou, disciple Chu Li from the Li dynasty is here to pay his respects. Come in. A deep voice came from inside the hall. Zhu Yuan led Chu Li up the 100 steps step by step and arrived at the doorstep of the hall. He fist saluted and said, Senior Brother Zhou. Then, he crossed the doorstep and entered the hall. Chu Li followed him in and saw a handsome young man sitting cross-legged in the center of the hall. He wore a yellow shirt and his eyes were bright like torches. It was as if he could see through Chu Li's body and mind with just a glance. There was a giant snake coiled around him in the shape of a huge disc. It was as thick as a person's waist, and Chu Li estimated that it was about 30 meters long. The snake's head was ferocious and terrifying. The snake's eyes emitted a cold light as it stared at Chu Li. Its forked tongue kept hissing as if it was going to pounce on him at any time. If it was an ordinary person, they would have collapsed to the ground at the sight of this giant snake. Chu Li calmly sized up this giant snake and shook his head. Although this snake was huge, it was not a spirit beast. It was still a normal beast. No matter how big it was, it would not be able to surpass the difference between a mortal and a spirit. Just like humans, no matter how burly and strong an ordinary person was, they were still different from a grandmaster. Senior Brother Zhou, Chu Li is here, Zhu Yuan Fist saluted and said respectfully. Greetings, Senior Brother Zhou. Chu Li Fist saluted. Zhou Jie said coldly, Why are you only here now? Chu Li said, I was delayed by something. Please forgive me, Senior Brother Zhou. You can still be delayed in Goddess Attraction Mountain? It seems like you don't take Goddess Attraction Mountain seriously. Zhou Jie scoffed. Then why did you come to Goddess Attraction Mountain? Chu Li said helplessly, I didn't mean it that way. He knew that Zhou Jie was taking the opportunity to create trouble and put him in his place. However, why would a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain do this? Zhou Jie was wearing a treasure weapon that blocked the prying of the omniscient mirror. Chu Li could not see through his thoughts, but such hostility did not come out of nowhere. There must be a reason. However, he had to lower his head when he was under someone else's roof. If he wanted the dragon taming technique, he could not be chased out of Goddess Attraction Mountain by Zhou Jie. Zhu Yuan kept quiet out of fear, not daring to say a word. Zhou Jie stared coldly at Chu Li. The giant snake behind him slowly crawled toward Chu Li, its long forked tongue hissing non-stop. It was almost touching Chu Li. Chu Li looked at Zhou Jie without moving. Zhou Jie stared at him without blinking, watching as the giant snake kept approaching Chu Li. Chu Li said, Does Senior Brother Zhou want to kill me? Do you know that Goddess Attraction Mountain has the right to kill you? Zhou Jie laughed coldly. No one will say a word if you're killed. Chu Li nodded. If I've done anything wrong, I'm willing to be punished. Senior Brother Zhou, Brother Chu was only a few days late. He doesn't deserve to die, right? Zhu Yuan said. Zhou Jie's gaze suddenly shot over. The giant snake slid and instantly shot in front of Zhu Yuan. Its long tongue flicked in and out in front of Zhu Yuan, ready to strike his face at any time. Zhu Yuan's expression changed slightly. The giant snake's aura made him feel an immense pressure, and he felt a sense of danger. Chu Li frowned. He did not expect Zhou Jie to be so overbearing and unreasonable, insisting on putting him in his place. He did not expect Zhu Yuan to be so innocent. He really did not look like a disciple of the imperial family. Chapter 1445. Zhou Jie said coldly, Are you going to stand up for him, Zhu Yuan? Zhu Yuan pursed his lips nervously. He felt cold all over. The giant snake's breath seemed to be blowing on his face. The stench seeped into every pore of his body, trying to freeze him. However, his pride prevented him from bowing down. He pursed his lips tightly and stared at the giant snake without saying a word, meeting its cold gaze. Zhou Jie sneered. How dare you? Zhu Yuan said nothing. Since you want to stand up for him, I'll fulfill your wish. Zhou Jie sneered. Hiss hiss. The giant snake's head slowly retreated and hissed. Suddenly, it moved forward at lightning speed, its tongue stabbing towards Zhu Yuan like a sword. Zhu Yuan quickly blocked it with his palm. Bang! His palm collided with the snake's tongue. Zhu Yuan flew out of the palace and slowly fell down the 100th step. His palm was limp and could not move anymore. Chu Li appeared beside him in a flash and helped him up. Spiritual energy surged into his body and healed his broken arm. The blow broke his shoulder, but his internal organs were unharmed. It was a blow of pure strength. Zhu Yuan struggled to shake his head. He looked arrogantly at Zhou Jie, who was looking down at him at the entrance of the palace. Although Zhou Jie was strong, he was unreasonable and easily angered. Zhu Yuan was an outer mountain disciple, and his martial arts was not high, but he would never bow down. He was here to be a disciple. Why should he be bullied? Zhu Yuan was the Jing dynasty's crown prince with a high status. No one in the Jing dynasty treated him like this. Even though his parents told him to lower his head before he came, he could not really do it. Chu Li said, "What did Brother Zhu do to be so ruthless? Is this the rule of Goddess Attraction Mountain?" He did not block it earlier because he did not expect Zhou Jie to really do it. He thought it was just to scare Zhu Yuan, but he was too late and caused Zhu Yuan to be injured. Fortunately, it was only a superficial injury. He would recover after a few days of rest. This made him extremely angry. Even if he needed help from Goddess Attraction Mountain, he could not help but want to teach Zhou Jie a lesson. Mountain rules. Zhou Jie suddenly laughed. "Are you even worthy of mentioning mountain rules?" Chu Li said, "We're outer mountain disciples after entering Goddess Attraction Mountain. As an inner mountain disciple, you don't have the right to punish us, right?" "I don't have the right to punish you." Zhou Jie smiled and said, "But if I want to teach you a lesson, I'll teach you a lesson. Who asked your martial arts to be so weak?" Chu Li scoffed coldly. "Do you think you can be so unscrupulous? Our immortal attraction mountain only has 3 inner disciples." Zhou Jie smiled and said, "Master and Grandmaster are both in seclusion. If I teach you a lesson, you can only endure it for nothing. So, you should know your situation, right?" Chu Li turned to look at Zhu Yuan. Zhu Yuan gritted his teeth and nodded. He could feel Chu Li's inner energy continuously healing his arm. It was warm and comfortable. Chu Li's cultivation level was far higher than his. No wonder he had such a great reputation. His reputation was indeed well-deserved. Chu Li scoffed. "That's impossible. Only 3 people? Master is an enlightened master. Master is currently in isolation. When he comes out, he will be an enlightened master. I will also be an enlightened master in the future." Zhou Jie sneered. "Chu Li, although you are powerful, you are destined to never become an enlightened master." Chu Li replied faintly, "That might not be the case." Zhou Jie curled his lips and sneered. "Do you think you can obediently wait to take over as an enlightened master by hiding here?" Chu Li frowned. "Could it be that someone dares to attack Goddess Attraction Mountain?" "You're too naive." Zhou Jie scoffed. "I heard you have a wife and the High Duke's public house. If someone wants to attack the High Duke's public house or capture your wife, will you go back?" Chu Li sighed. "The Tempest Temple is not that despicable. For the sake of an enlightened master, even the most despicable things can be done." Zhou Jie curled his lip. "So, don't even dream about it." Chu Li nodded. "Thank you for the reminder, Senior Brother Zhou." Zhou Jie sneered. "I'm reminding you to be mindful of your identity. You're not an enlightened master, you're just an outer mountain disciple." "Yes," Chu Li replied, "but I also have to remind Senior Brother Zhou that you're not an enlightened master either. You're just an inner mountain disciple." Zhou Jie's face darkened. "Looks like you're not convinced." Chu Li replied, "I wouldn't dare." Senior Brother Zhou was so aggressive. It was all because of jealousy. "Nonsense." Zhou Jie's expression changed. He laughed out loud. "Jealousy? I'm jealous of you?" Chu Li said coldly, "You're feeling guilty, aren't you?" When he heard that there were only 3 people in Goddess Attraction Mountain and that the other 2 were in isolated cultivation, he completely gave up. It was almost impossible to learn the dragon taming technique from Goddess Attraction Mountain. Looking at Zhou Jie, he would never teach it to him. It would be useless even if he knelt down and begged. If that was the case, why should he be sullen? "Chu, who do you think you are?" Zhou Jie sneered. "You think you're the youth champion just because you're a little famous? You're just a frog in a well. Today, I'll let you know that there's always someone better than you." As he finished speaking, the giant snake suddenly crawled out of the palace. Its 10-meter-long body appeared in the air, and its tongue stabbed forward like a sword. Ding! Chu Li held his sword horizontally in front of him. The tongue hit the blade and a great force was transmitted. Chu Li's own strength was strong. Although it was not as strong as a spirit beast, It was far stronger than a human. Although the giant snake was strong, it was not much stronger than him. The magical effect of the giant spirit pill was shown. He did not take a step back. Humph! Zhou Jie sneered when he saw him standing steadily. The giant snake was like a gust of wind. It did not seem clumsy at all. It slithered down the stairs in an instant and circled Chu Li and Zhu Yuanzhu in the middle. Its tongue flicked in and out and hissed. It stared coldly at the two of them. Zhu Yuanzhu's body stiffened. He wanted to turn around and escape. Chu Li said in a low voice, "If this snake is presumptuous again, don't blame me for being impolite." Ha ha! Zhou Jie laughed. Impolite? Are you saying that you can kill it? If you can really kill it, then I have nothing to say. That's good. Chu Li nodded slowly. Zhou Jie shook his head and laughed. You really don't know your limits. As soon as he finished speaking, the giant snake's tongue shot towards Chu Li again. Ding 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 ding. Chu Li stabbed the tongue several times. He moved forward as he attacked. He got closer to the giant snake's body. The tip of his sword even stabbed the snake's body, making the sound of metal clashing. The giant snake's scales were hard and impenetrable. However, Chu Li did not stop stabbing as if he was unconvinced and wanted to break through. The giant snake's movements were extremely fast. Coupled with the speed of its tongue, Zhu Yuan was dazzled. He knew that he could not avoid it even if he was prepared. This giant snake was Zhou Jie's pet. If it could not deal with it, then Zhou Jie could. It was no wonder that Zhou Jie was so arrogant. Chu Li appeared behind the giant snake in a flash. He gently circled the snake's neck with his sword, and the snake's body was suddenly cut into two. This sword attack was unleashed by the rich force accumulated in the 7 chakras. As he expected, its power was shocking. Bang 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 bang. The snake's head and tail struggled violently. They swept left and right. The spotless bluestone floor shook from the giant snake's slaps. Chapter 1446. Chu Li gently shook his sword, and the blood dripped onto the bluestone floor. He sheathed his sword. He shook his head. No matter how big the snake was, it was not a spirit snake. Otherwise, even with a strong aura, the sword might not be able to cut it in half. Chu Li, you deserve to die. Zhou Jie's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Chu Li. I will kill you for little Qing. Chu Li said calmly, this is a warning to Brother Zhou. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you are an inner mountain disciple. Die. Zhou Jie roared and crossed 100 steps in one step. He reached Chu Li and slammed his palm. Bam! Chu Li took a step back and looked at Zhou Jie in shock. He did not expect his palm energy to be so strong and domineering. It was only slightly weaker than his own. This was even better than Wei Wuwei. No wonder he was so arrogant. Zhou Jie took 2 steps back and almost tripped on the step. He stared at Chu Li with an ugly expression. He did not expect Chu Li to be so powerful. Chu Li's cultivation level was higher than his, and his inner energy was so strong that it suppressed him. His internal organs felt like they were burning. It was much purer than his. Chu Li shook his head. That's all you got. Die. Zhou Jie snorted and slammed his palm again. Roar. It was as if a giant beast was roaring. The strange palm energy reached Chu Li's chest at an incredible speed. Chu Li did not dodge and met it with his right palm. Boom! It was like an explosion. Chu Li stood firmly while Zhou Jie took 2 steps back. His face was flushed. Boom boom boom. The two of them continued to exchange palms. In the blink of an eye, they exchanged 10 palms. Chu Li did not take a single step back. Zhou Jie desperately attacked but kept retreating. At first, he was forced to take 2 steps back. After 10 palms, he was forced to take 4 steps back. His face was as red as blood and his eyes were bloodshot. He stared at Chu Li. Good. Good. Chu Li shook his head. It's a waste of effort. You are no match for me. No wonder you are so arrogant. Zhou Jie gritted his teeth and glanced at the broken snake on the ground, but this is Goddess Attraction Mountain, not the Ji dynasty. Chu Li said, so what if it's Goddess Attraction Mountain? Does Brother Zhou dare to kill me? I don't dare to kill, but someone dares to kill you. Zhou Jie sneered. Chu Li extended his hand. As an outer mountain disciple, I have the right to cultivate the spirit serpent technique, right? You want to cultivate the spirit serpent art. Zhou Jie sneered. You're interested in the spirit serpent art? Chu Li replied, I'm not interested in the spirit serpent technique. I want to cultivate the dragon taming technique. I heard that it's the ultimate technique of Goddess Attraction Mountain. You haven't cultivated it yet, have you? Alright, I'll give you the spirit snake art. Zhou Jie scoffed with a gloomy face. He took out a thin booklet and tossed it to Chu Li. Practice well. If you can't master this, don't come to the inner mountain. He waved his hand and returned to the main hall. Zhu Yuan pursed his lips. This Zhou Jie was also someone who bullied the weak and feared the strong. When he saw that he could not defeat Chu Li, he retreated. Even though the giant snake was killed by Chu Li, it was really disgraceful. He did not use any secret skills at all. Chu Li took the secret manual and glanced at the 3 big words on it. Spirit Serpent Technique. Raising his thumb, Zhu Yuan praised, Brother Chu, you're truly amazing. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. I've caused Brother Zhu to get injured. It's none of your business. Zhu Yuan scoffed. I've always disliked him. He's always arrogant and overbearing. It's as if we're all his slaves, ordering us around. I've been itching to beat him up for a long time. Chu Li laughed. Zhu Yuan said, I really can't defeat him. This guy is arrogant, but his martial arts is really powerful. He's worthy of being a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Chu Li laughed. He hasn't cultivated the dragon taming technique yet, right? He felt that Zhou Jie's martial arts was not the dragon taming technique. Otherwise, the dragon taming technique would be too weak. He hasn't mastered the spirit snake art. Otherwise, he wouldn't have this snake by his side. It would have become a spirit snake long ago. Zhu Yuan pouted. Spirit snake? Chu Li frowned. He had already noticed something strange. The giant snake that he had just killed seemed to be connected to Zhou Jie. Zhu Yuan said, Our spirit snake art allows us to tame spirit snakes as our pet. We can let spirit snakes fight for us. Chu Li laughed. This was out of his expectations. He had thought that the spirit snake art was a martial arts technique that was based on the wonders of spirit snake. He never thought that not only could it be used to cultivate oneself, but it could also tame spirit snakes for one's own use. How was this martial arts technique? It was more like a divine power. Zhu Yuan said, The spirit snake art is very mysterious. It allows one to transform into a spirit snake and gain the recognition of other spirit snakes to become one's pet. Chu Li nodded thoughtfully. He did not say much and quickly flipped open the spirit snake art. He finished reading more than 10 pages in one go. He quickly deduced in his mind and finally nodded. It was indeed as Zhu Yuan had said. The spirit snake art was a technique that tempered the body and cultivated energy. By obtaining the spirit of spirit snakes, one could communicate with the spirit snakes and become one's pet. While one was powerful, one would also obtain a powerful assistant. Compared to the spirit crane art that he had cultivated before, the spirit snake art took a different path. The spirit crane art only took the charm of spirit cranes. It was a powerful martial arts technique that was inspired by spirit cranes. When it was perfected, its power would be shocking. The spirit snake art, on the other hand, transformed one's body into a spirit snake. In essence, it was a technique that tempered the body. It was more difficult to cultivate than the spirit crane art. It was not easy to change one's body, one would have to suffer a lot. How can he become an inner mountain disciple if he hasn't cultivated the spirit snake art? Chu Li asked. Zhu Yuan pursed his lips. Although he hasn't cultivated the spirit snake art, he has enough potential. If he slowly cultivates it, he will eventually cultivate the dragon taming technique and become an enlightened master. Chu Li shook his head. Don't tell me the dragon taming technique is to cultivate himself into a dragon? Yes. Zhu Yuan said, spirit snakes can only transform into dragons after they become strong. If he doesn't cultivate the spirit snake art, he won't be able to cultivate the dragon taming technique. Chu Li nodded slowly. Zhu Yuan said, in short, this spirit snake art is very difficult to cultivate. Even Zhou Jie couldn't cultivate it with his potential. It'll be even more difficult for us to cultivate it. There's a way, Chu Li said. I have to try. Brother Chu, you have great potential too. You might be able to cultivate it, Zhu Yuan said. Chu Li shook his head. I have average potential. I'm just lucky. I'll go back and cultivate first. Will Brother Zhou give me trouble again? Zhu Yuan said, I know this guy. When he can't beat you, he'll definitely behave himself. When he can beat you, he'll definitely settle old scores. So, Brother Chu, you have to cultivate the spirit snake art quickly. Don't fall behind him. Chu Li fist saluted. I'll be in your care in the future, Brother Zhu. Actually, we don't have much to do on Goddess Attraction Mountain. We just have some trivial things to do. Zhu Yuan said, besides feeding the spirit beasts, we also have to plant spirit herbs. Cultivating the spirit snake art requires a unique secret formula of spirit medicine. Every day we have to boil and bathe in spirit herbs. We have to plant all these spirit herbs. Each of us has to take care of 10 acres of spirit herbs. Chu Li nodded. All right, we don't have to care about this snake. He was the best at planting spirit herbs. It was also the most worry-free. Zhu Yuan said, just throw it down. Chu Li pushed with his palm, and the giant snake fell into the clouds, disappearing before their eyes. The two rode the white crane back to their palace. They followed Zhu Yuan to a spirit herb nursery and found 10 acres of spirit herbs that belonged to them. Chapter 1447. Chu Li looked at the 10 acres of spirit herbs and shook his head. No matter where he went, he would always encounter spirit herbs. However, with the life and death scripture, he did not have to worry about spirit herbs. Now that the life and death scripture was becoming more powerful, it was more beneficial to spirit herbs. These are green headgrass, splendid pine grass, golden watergrass. Zhu Yuan pointed at the acres of spirit herbs and introduced the names of the 10 spirit herbs one by one. He smiled. When these 10 spirit herbs are boiled together, it will be the most important medicinal bath for us to cultivate the spirit snake technique. Without this medicinal bath recipe, obtaining the spirit snake technique secret manual would be useless. Moreover, these 10 spirit herbs are the spirit snake's most important food. Other than for ourselves, we have to feed the spirit snake. Chu Li smiled. Feeding the spirit snake is the most important, right? Yes. Zhu Yuan smiled and nodded. We can only use the leftovers from the spirit snake. However, there are 4 of us. 40 acres of spirit herbs is enough for it to eat. We have plenty to use too. Chu Li pondered. Can we plant these at the foot of the mountain? As long as there is enough for the spirit snake to eat and enough spirit herbs, you can plant them wherever you want. You can also ask for help from others. In short, you don't have to worry about these spirit herbs spreading. Zhu Yuan smiled. However, these spirit herbs are difficult to grow. Goddess Attraction Mountain has a rich spiritual energy. Even if there are spirit fields elsewhere, it will be difficult to grow them. Chu Li nodded. Rich spiritual energy was indeed a characteristic of Goddess Attraction Mountain. He smiled. Zhou Jie, was that snake a spirit snake? No. Zhu Yuan shook his head. It was just a little bit away from becoming a spirit snake. It would have probably done so in another 10 years. Unfortunately, you killed it. Chu Li smiled. Could it be that a normal snake can also become a spirit snake? Yes. Zhu Yuan nodded. If it eats enough of these 10 spirit herbs and uses the inner energy of the spirit snake technique to wash its body, it will become a spirit snake. The dragon taming technique can turn a spirit snake into a dragon. After becoming an enlightened master, they can ride a dragon to and fro the outland. They are much more powerful than other enlightened masters. That's why Goddess Attraction Mountain can transcend the world. Legend has it that after mastering the dragon taming technique and the other 3 heart techniques, one can enter and exit the outland without the help of a dragon, defy nature and become a god. Chu Li asked. Zhu Yuan laughed. Defying the heavens and becoming a god is just a legend. No one knows if it's true or not, because no one has ever succeeded in cultivating it. What Zhou Jie said is true, but no one has ever succeeded in cultivating it. The people of Immortal Attraction Mountain ride dragons to and from heavens beyond. Chu Li nodded. The Spirit Snake incantation has a total of 9 levels. If I can master the 3rd level, I can stay on the mountain for another year. If I master the 6th level, I can stay for another year. Zhu Yuan smiled and said, if you can cultivate it to perfection, you will be an inner mountain disciple. There will be endless benefits. Chu Li asked, has anyone mastered the 6th level? There was one 100 years ago. Zhu Yuanzhu sighed and said, it's a pity that I couldn't reach the 9th level in the end. After staying for 3 years, I still went down the mountain. Chu Li furrowed his brows and said, this threshold is really high. What are the qualifications required to become an inner mountain disciple? Zhu Yuan shook his head. Only the inner mountain disciples know about this. It is said that after starting to cultivate the art of dragon control, there are 2 most important tasks. One is to cultivate the art of dragon control, and the other is to find a disciple. You must find a disciple who meets the requirement. Only one? Chu Li asked. Zhu Yuan nodded. Goddess Attraction Mountain only has 1 disciple, and it will never be broken. Chu Li slowly nodded. Zhu Yuan said, also, it is said that only 1 disciple can be found. These disciples are all reincarnated devas, which is why they can cultivate the art of dragon control. Ordinary people can't cultivate the art of dragon control at all. Devas? Chu Li was surprised. Zhu Yuan waved his hand and said, this is just a legend. I don't know if it's true or not. Anyway, Goddess Attraction Mountain is very mysterious. The spiritual energy is especially rich. Cultivating here for a year is equivalent to cultivating outside for a few years. Even if I can't cultivate the spirit snake incantation, it will still be very beneficial. Chu Li said, other than the spirit snake, can we also feed the dragon? We only care about the spirit snake. We don't need to use anything else. Zhu Yuan smiled and said, Zhou Jie, ignore him. He can't do anything to us. Chu Li frowned and said, I killed his snake. Won't I be punished? He provoked us first. Zhu Yuan scoffed and said, the Hill Master is fair. He won't be biased. Besides, the Hill Master is an isolated cultivation. He can't be bothered with this kind of thing. What if he kills us? Chu Li asked. Zhu Yuan said, he doesn't have the guts. We're not ordinary people. No matter how extraordinary Goddess Attraction Mountain is, they won't dare to act recklessly. Chu Li nodded. They were all disciples of the imperial family. Their status was much higher than ordinary people. However, he was not. Zhou Jie might be looking for an opportunity to kill him. Unfortunately, Zhou Jie could not kill him. They had to think of other ways. Can we get the dragon taming technique? Chu Li asked. Will it be easier to comprehend the spirit snake incantation through the dragon taming technique? If we can't cultivate the spirit snake incantation, we won't be able to see the dragon taming technique. Zhu Yuan shook his head and said, not to mention us, even Zhou Jie hasn't seen the dragon taming technique. Chu Li nodded thoughtfully. Brother Chu, you have extraordinary qualifications. Unfortunately, No matter how good your qualifications are, I'm afraid you can't cultivate the dragon taming technique. Zhu Yuan shook his head and said, let's see if you can cultivate the spirit snake incantation first. The spirit snake incantation is very powerful. He knew that his qualifications were far from Chu Li's. It was almost impossible for him to cultivate the spirit snake incantation. He could only try his best to cultivate it and strive to stay at Goddess Attraction Mountain for one more year. Chu Li smiled and said, I'll ask the High Duke's public house to help me plant the spirit herbs. I've also asked someone to help me plant them. Zhu Yuan smiled and said. Under the hazy moonlight, Chu Li sat in a wooden tub in a house. The tub was steaming hot and the smell of medicine was rich. He sat in the hot water and felt the strange medicinal effects enter his pores and merge with the heat flow in his meridians. The inner energy of the spirit snake incantation was firm and yang. It was similar to the spiritual energy he obtained from the Outland. Although it was not as pure as the spiritual energy from the Outland, there was a faint trace of it. This made Chu Li extremely surprised. He knew a little about the firm and yang heart techniques, but none of them were similar to the spiritual energy from the Outland. Only the spirit snake incantation had a trace of the spiritual energy from the Outland. It was far from the spiritual energy from the Outland, but it had already surpassed the firm and yang inner energy. He suddenly understood the wonders of the spirit snake incantation. The name spirit snake incantation was very deceptive. In fact, this heart technique was completely different from the spirit crane incantation. The spirit crane incantation was a heart technique created by comprehending the charm of the spirit crane incantation. After cultivating it, one would be as agile and swift as a spirit crane. The spirit snake incantation, on the other hand, did not refer to the charm of the spirit snake incantation. Instead, it allowed an ordinary snake to transform into the power of a spirit snake. Zhu Yuan's understanding was fundamentally wrong. After cultivating the spirit snake incantation, one would transform into a spirit snake with infinite strength. He had underestimated the spirit snake incantation. It would be very difficult to cultivate it with this understanding. If Chu Li had not cultivated the Supreme Diamond Scripture and come into contact with the spiritual energy from the Outland, he would not have discovered the wonders of the spirit snake incantation. Chapter 1448. Chu Li opened his eyes and soaked in the warm water. The medicinal fragrance had disappeared and the water in the wooden bucket was so clear that he could see the bottom. He had been wearing the floating silkworm-treasured clothing and had been protected by the vital energy. Dust did not stick to his body. In addition, his body had been cleansed several times and was almost free of dirt. Therefore, even after soaking for so long, the water in the bucket was still clear. He smiled. The Supreme Vajra Scripture was able to obtain the spiritual chi of the sky beyond heaven, which was extremely firm and yang. Unfortunately, the cultivation of the Supreme Vajra Scripture required two people to work together. He could only absorb the spiritual chi through the nirvana wheel, but he could not transform it into a mellow aura. He could not cultivate it alone. Usually, he only used the hard and yang vital energy to activate various martial arts. Although the effect was stronger than the original inner energy, it was far from his expectations and could not reach the mellow aura level. All this while, he could not convert spiritual energy from Outland. All the heart techniques he learned could not convert it. He always regretted it and refused to cultivate it with Sun Mingyue. He could only waste the Supreme Titanium Scripture. Now that he cultivated the Spirit Serpent technique, he suddenly found a way to cultivate spiritual energy from Outland. He could convert spiritual energy from Outland and increase his power. Even if it was not as good as the Supreme Titanium Scripture, he was satisfied. As the level of the Spirit Serpent technique increased, the power would also increase. He secretly thought that it might be comparable to the supreme titanium scripture or even better than the mellow aura that he cultivated with Sun Mingyue. Time passed by unknowingly. A night had passed and it was morning. Zhu Yuan's voice came from outside. "Brother Chu, let's go feed the spirit snake." Chu Li floated out of the wooden bucket and shook gently. He put on his clothes and walked out. Zhu Yuan was standing outside with a bag of spirit herbs on his back. When he saw Chu Li come out, he quickly said, "We should go feed the spirit snakes. We have to feed them once every 10 days. Don't forget. Otherwise, if Zhou Jie catches us, we'll be in trouble again." "Okay." Chu Li nodded. "Do I need to bring more spirit herbs?" "No, we'll take turns. You do it once and I do it once so we don't have to go every time. I'm bringing you to have a look today." Zhu Yuan said, "I'll bring all the spirit herbs this time. Next time you'll bring all. We'll take turns every 20 days. Chu Li nodded. The two of them rode on the white crane and flew into the clouds. After passing through the clouds, they arrived at the palace at the top of the mountain and landed gracefully. Then, the two of them got off the white crane and arrived in front of Zhou Jie, who was waiting there. Zhou Jie gloomily stared at the two of them. Zhu Yuan, carrying a bag of spirit herbs, stepped forward and cupped his fists. "Senior Marshal Brother Zhou." Zhou Jie furrowed his brows as he looked at Chu Li. His face darkened as he felt that Chu Li's aura was much stronger than yesterday. It was as if Chu Li was a completely different person. His spirit serpent technique was progressing very quickly. His cultivation level was not as high as Chu Li's, so he could not estimate the depth of Chu Li's cultivation. However, he was very familiar with the spirit serpent technique. He could feel the strong aura of the spirit serpent technique from Chu Li's body, and it did not seem like it was caused by just one night. However, he had clearly just started cultivating. If that was the case, then his progress in one night was equivalent to the progress of others for a long time. Could it be that this Chu Li was a genius in cultivation? Could he have mastered the spirit serpent technique? When he thought of this, he felt a sense of crisis. If Chu Li really became an inner mountain disciple, then he would have to suffer. He would have to see Chu Li from time to time, and this was not the kind of life he wanted. Chu Li cupped his fists and remained silent. "You've cultivated the spirit serpent technique, haven't you?" Zhou Jie scoffed. Chu Li nodded. Zhou Jie looked at him from head to toe. "You've cultivated to the first level?" Chu Li smiled. "The third level." "Impossible," Zhou Jie scoffed. "The third level? How dare you say that?" Chu Li smiled without saying a word. Zhu Yuan turned his head and looked at him in surprise. "Brother Chu, you've really cultivated to the third level?" Chu Li said, "What's there to lie about? Isn't it obvious which level I've cultivated to?" As he spoke, he lightly slapped his palm towards Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie gritted his teeth and slapped his palm. Bang! Zhou Jie took 4 steps back. He felt the strong and masculine aura and immediately knew that it was the spirit serpent technique. However, Chu Li's third level of the spirit serpent technique was much stronger than his 5th level. It was purer and more overbearing. "You're at the third level?" he scoffed. Chu Li nodded. "I guess I'm at the third level." The spirit serpent technique he cultivated was different from Zhou Jie's. It was cultivated using the spiritual energy of Outland, while Zhou Jie cultivated using the spiritual energy of this world. The two were fundamentally different, so the power was much weaker. Moreover, his original cultivation level was higher than Zhou Jie's. Zhou Jie gritted his teeth. "What a third level! You've cultivated to the third level in one night. You're like a fish in water." Chu Li smiled. "That's right. I feel that my cultivation of the spirit serpent technique is exceptionally fast. It's as if I'm assisted by God." He naturally knew that it was due to the help of the spiritual energy of Outland and the supreme diamond scripture. However, saying it like this added a sense of mystery. It gave people the feeling that it was predestined. As expected, Zhou Jie's expression changed when he heard this. He sneered. As if you're assisted by God. Chu Li nodded seriously. I was just casually cultivating and I ended up entering the 3rd level. I've never seen the spirit serpent technique before and I definitely didn't cultivate it secretly. It's really strange. Zhu Yuan nodded. It's really strange. Chu Li said, Brother Zhou, do you know the reason? Zhou Jie scoffed coldly. What reason? Are you going to say that you're the reincarnation of a deva? Chu Li smiled. Are you saying that I'm the reincarnation of a deva if I cultivate the spirit serpent technique quickly? What else? Zhou Jie sneered. You're really daring. It's not too late to say that after you've cultivated the spirit serpent technique to the 6th level. Reincarnation of a deva? Dream on. Zhu Yuan sized Chu Li up and then looked at Zhou Jie. He smiled. That's not necessarily true. Brother Chu is now the youth's number 1. I heard that your cultivation time is very short. You're really a rare genius. I believe that you're the reincarnation of a deva. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. I've never heard of this. How can a deva be reincarnated? Zhu Yuan said seriously, Brother Chu, it seems that you really don't know about the reincarnation of a deva. Brother Zhou knows. Brother Zhou, don't you think that Brother Chu is like a reincarnation of a deva? Whether or not it's not up to you. Zhou Jie said coldly. It's getting late. You should go feed the spirit snake. Oh yes, it's time to feed the spirit snake. Zhu Yuan quickly nodded. He picked up the bag of spirit herbs, and was about to move forward but was stopped by Zhou Jie. He scoffed. I want to check your spirit herbs. Zhu Yuan passed the bag of spirit herbs to him. Zhou Jie opened the bag and flipped through the spirit herbs. In the end, he retracted his hand and scoffed. That's right. Chu Li, be careful. It's fine that you killed my spirit snake. If you kill another spirit snake, no one can save you. Chu Li fist saluted and did not say anything. Zhu Yuan picked up the bag and quickly moved forward. He did not want Chu Li to be unable to control himself and hit Zhou Jie. The two arrived at a ravine. As soon as they stepped into the ravine, Chu Li activated the omniscient mirror. He finally found a small snake that was only a meter long and as thick as a finger. It was emerald green like jade. It was completely different from the giant snake that Zhou Jie kept. This emerald green snake was a spirit snake. According to Chu Li's omniscient mirror, its intelligence was not inferior to that of a normal person. Chapter 1449. Zhu Yuan looked around and slowly put the bag down. Chu Li asked, You'll just leave us here? You'll have to wait for it to eat the spirit herbs, Zhu Yuan said, and observe it. Chu Li asked, Will it not eat? Zhu Yuan shook his head. Sometimes it needs to shed its skin and needs more spirit herbs. Can't wait 10 days, it needs 5 days to feed it. Chu Li slowly nodded. A moment later, a green light flashed and a jade-green spirit snake was lying on top of the spirit herbs. It was what Chu Li saw earlier. Its entire body looked like it was carved out of jade. Not only did it not give off an eerie feeling, but it was also beautiful. One would want to reach out and touch it, but one would have goosebumps when looking at its cold and merciless vertical pupils. It laid on top of the spirit herbs and raised its delicate head. It looked at Chu Li and Zhu Yuan, its tongue hissing in and out at an extremely fast speed. After staring at Chu Li and Zhu Yuan for a while, the snake slowly lowered its head and remained motionless on top of the spirit herbs. A colorful aura gushed out from the bag of spirit herbs, fluttered into the spirit snake's mouth, and disappeared into it. The bulging spirit herb bag suddenly shriveled, and the spirit herbs seemed to have disappeared. The emerald spirit snake laid on top of the bag without moving, as if it was full and did not want to move. Chu Li turned to look at Zhu Yuan. It's full, right? Yes. Zhu Yuan smiled. Let's complete the mission. Chu Li smiled. That's quite easy. It's easy, but the spirit herbs are the key. Zhu Yuan nodded. Let's go. They turned around and took 2 steps when Chu Li pushed Zhu Yuan. Swoosh! A green shadow flashed and Zhu Yuan staggered to avoid it. Chu Li quickly shouted, "Be careful." Zhu Yuan looked at the green shadow in confusion. He did not know why the spirit snake would suddenly attack him. Chu Li suddenly stood in front of Zhu Yuan and pressed his palm forward. Bam! The spirit snake collided with the heavenly king palm energy. It sounded like a hammer hitting a piece of wood. It paused in the air and curled its body before shooting towards Zhu Yuan again. It was determined to kill him. Chu Li used another heavenly king palm. Bam! 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 Chu Li unleashed 3 heavenly king palms in one go, blocking the spirit snake outside his palm. Zhu Yuan asked blankly, "What's going on?" Chu Li scoffed. Just now, the bag contained spirit herbs that it hated. It made its whole body uncomfortable. He could sense the changes in the spirit snake's emotions. It was already extremely furious and determined to kill Zhu Yuan. Its intelligence was not inferior to a human's. It knew that the spirit grass was brought by Zhu Yuan, so it wanted to kill Zhu Yuan. However, it had already angered it by blocking its way, so it wanted to kill it as well. That's impossible. Zhu Yuan shouted, "I picked the spiritual grasses one by one, there's no way I'm wrong." Chu Li shook his head. "Let's retreat first." "Oh," Zhu Yuan answered and hurriedly walked out. Chu Li brought up the rear and repeatedly blocked the spirit snake with his palms. The spirit snake's emotions turned from anger to irritation, and its jade-like body began to expand. Its cold eyes gradually lit up, and the force it used to collide with Chu Li's palm energy became stronger and faster. When the two retreated into the ravine, it suddenly howled and flew into the sky. It flew over Chu Li's head and landed at the entrance of the ravine, blocking their way out. Then, a green glow shot towards Chu Li. Chu Li pulled Zhu Yuan and retreated. Hiss! The green glow landed on the ground and suddenly disappeared. Then, the weeds within 10 meters withered and turned into ashes. Chu Li's omniscient mirror clearly saw the green glow turn into poisonous gas and spread. It was extremely toxic, and it could cut one's throat without bleeding. Chu Li's face darkened as he slowly pulled out his long sword. The modesty sword was dull, but under the activation of his inner energy, it flashed with a frightening aura. He realized that God's limbs and the divine void light technique could not be used. Goddess Attraction Mountain was indeed strange, but he did not know if it was because of a formation or something else. Otherwise, he would have escaped long ago. Not only were God's limbs and the divine void light technique restricted, but imminent skyline and other body movement techniques were also slowed down. However, the spirit snake did not seem to be affected and moved extremely quickly. If this continued, they would not be able to escape. Zhu Yuan knew at a glance that the modesty sword was a spirit weapon. He quickly said, "Brother Chu, you can't hurt it." Chu Li said, "It won't let us leave if we don't hurt it." "If you hurt it, Brother Chu, you won't be able to stay on Goddess Attraction Mountain anymore," Zhu Yuan said. Chu Li said coldly, "Looks like it was Senior Brother Zhou's doing." Zhu Yuan gritted his teeth. Vicious. He was certain that there was absolutely no problem with the spirit herbs he had picked, but Zhou Jie had turned them over halfway. He must have done something to them and angered the spirit snake. This Zhou Jie was truly vicious. He wanted their lives. Chu Li said, "You go first." "No." Zhu Yuan shook his head. "Let's go together." Chu Li said, "Brother Zhu, you can ask Senior Brother Zhou for help. He can't just leave us to die, right?" "This." Zhu Yuan frowned. Chu Li said, "I think Senior Brother Zhou can appease this spirit snake? He should be able to." Zhu Yuan nodded. Chu Li said, "If it doesn't help us, then don't blame me for being ruthless." Zhu Yuan thought about it and nodded. This was a good idea. He would not be able to help here. His martial arts skills were too weak, and he would only be a burden. He could not help but say, Alright, I'll go find Zhou Jie. Chu Li took a step forward and a misty sword light flashed. The spirit snake rushed forward. Ding! The sword and the snake's body let out a sound of metal clashing. The spirit snake was shaken by the sword energy and its strength was instantly dissipated. Its body stopped and fell to the ground. Go! Chu Li pushed Zhu Yuan. Zhu Yuan was thrown out like a stone from a catapult. He flew out of the ravine in the blink of an eye. The spirit snake hissed and its body expanded again. It shot toward Chu Li angrily and no longer chased after Zhu Yuan. Chu Li waved his sword and covered his body. Ding 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 ding. The continuous clear sound was like rain hitting on banana leaves. He waved his sword and retreated. Zhu Yuan turned to look at Chu Li and the spirit snake. He hurriedly ran toward the basilica. After a while, he arrived at the basilica but did not see Zhou Jie. He shouted, "Senior Zhou! Senior Zhou!" His voice was very loud. But Zhou Jie seemed to have disappeared. Zhu Yuan immediately thought that Zhou Jie must be hiding in a corner, and did not let him find him. He was furious and shouted, "Zhou Jie! Zhou Jie! Zhou Jie! Get out here!" He stood in front of the basilica and cursed loudly. Unfortunately, Zhou Jie did not make a sound. It seemed like he was really not there. Zhu Yuan turned to look at the white cranes in front of the basilica and realized there were only two. It was obvious that Zhou Jie rode the other one away. He was really not there and might be hiding below. Ah! He stomped his feet and screamed at the sky. "Brother Zhu!" Chu Li's voice suddenly rang in his ears. Zhu Yuan saw that Chu Li was already in front of him. He immediately smiled and sighed in relief. Chu Li pulled him up. "Hurry up and leave." Before he finished speaking, a green shadow flashed and the spirit snake attacked again. Chu Li could only wave his sword to block it. He said helplessly, "It can actually leave the ravine." He originally thought that the spirit snake would only stay in the ravine and that he could get rid of it by leaving the ravine. He did not expect that it did not care about the ravine at all and continued to chase after them. Chapter 1450. Zhu Yuan quickly shouted, "Don't let it hurt the spirit crane." Chu Li shook his head helplessly and swung his sword forward to block the spirit snake that was shooting at the crane. Ding ding ding. The spirit snake changed directions 3 times in the air but was blocked by the modesty sword. Ding ding. The spirit crane pecked the spirit snake and let out a metallic sound. Although the 2 cranes had not reached the spirit crane level, they were close to it. Their long beaks were as sharp as steel. Hiss! The spirit snake hissed angrily and suddenly shot at Zhu Yuan. Chu Li blocked it with his sword and it shot at the cranes again. Chu Li blocked it with his sword again, causing the spirit snake to hiss angrily, but it could not do anything to Chu Li. His sword was as dense as a net and it could not escape no matter how hard it struggled. Zhu Yuan clapped and laughed. "Good swordsmanship." Chu Li smiled. "I can't hurt it and I can't let it hurt anyone. It's so tiring. Brother Chu, I didn't expect your swordsmanship to be so powerful." Zhu Yuan praised. He was not surprised that Chu Li could defeat the spirit snake, but the difficult part was that he did not injure the spirit snake. If he accidentally injured it, it would be a huge problem. This was Zhou Jie's viciousness. He wanted Chu Li to injure the spirit snake so that he would be chased out of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Chu Li shook his head. The white crane kept pecking at the spirit snake. It wanted to fight back but was blocked by Chu Li. It seemed like he was attacking it with the white crane. This made it even angrier and more murderous. It was determined to kill him. Chu Li felt helpless. If this went on, it would be troublesome to feed the spirit snake, and they would have to fight each time. He turned to look at Zhu Yuan. Zhu Yuan was even more troublesome. He could not defeat the spirit snake. Once he entered the valley to feed it, he would definitely be killed by the spirit snake. Zhou Jie was really ruthless. "Let's go," Chu Li said. "You ride a crane first." "Okay." Zhu Yuan nodded. He leaped onto a crane and tried to make it leave. Fortunately, the crane was docile and finally turned to leave. The spirit snake turned in the air and chased after Zhu Yuan and the crane. Chu Li floated in front of the crane and Zhu Yuan. The spirit snake suddenly turned around in the air and shot towards Chu Li's white crane. Seeing that Chu Li would not be able to save it in time, ding! A white light shot out from Chu Li's sleeve. The spirit snake was hit by the white light and fell to the ground along with the flying blade. Chu Li leaped in front of the white crane and leaped onto its back. Then, he rode the crane and flew away. The spirit snake wanted to chase after him, but it was hit by another flying blade from Chu Li's sleeve and fell to the ground again. The white crane took off gracefully, descended from the clouds, and arrived at the palace where they were. As soon as the white crane landed in front of the palace, it saw Zhou Jie standing on the steps with his hands behind his back, sizing up the two of them. Zhu Yuan arrived in front of him in 2 or 3 steps and angrily shouted, "Zhou Jie, you are despicable." Zhou Jie smiled faintly and said lazily, "What despicable? You actually tampered with my spiritual herbs and almost caused me to be killed by the spiritual snake." Zhu Yuan clenched his teeth and glared at him. "I will definitely report this to the mountain chieftain." "All right, then tell me, what did I do?" Zhou Jie sneered. "Do you think you can do it just because you say so? There has to be evidence, right? He was eaten by a spirit snake. Where is the proof?" Zhu Yuan gnashed his teeth, feeling a chill in his heart. He knew that he could not do anything to Zhou Jie now. Leng Tao and the other two left the palace and came closer to watch the show. The simple and honest Tang Zhao asked, "Brother Zhu, how did Brother Zhou tamper with it?" "He went through my spiritual herbs. After the spiritual snake ate them, it went berserk and wanted to kill me," Zhu Yuan said hatefully. "I personally picked my spiritual herbs one by one. There was absolutely no problem. After he went through them, a problem immediately arose. If it wasn't him, then who could it be?" Zhou Jie cast a sidelong glance at him. "Zhu Yuan, you think too highly of yourself, but the spiritual snake is fine, right? It doesn't matter if you die, but if anything happens to the spiritual snake, just wait for it to be expelled from Goddess Attraction Mountain." Zhu Yuan scoffed, "Don't worry, it is unharmed. Your wishful thinking did not work." Slap. Chu Li suddenly slapped Zhou Jie's face. Zhou Jie never thought that Chu Li would make a move at this time. He was caught off guard and received a resounding slap. His handsome face quickly flushed red, as if it was covered by a layer of red cloth. He glared at Chu Li with a mixture of shame and anger. Chu Li coldly said, "Petty tricks. Good. Good." Zhou Jie gritted his teeth and stared at Chu Li as he slowly nodded. "Disgraceful insubordination." Chu Li said, "Go, complain to the Hill Master." Zhou Jie slowly looked at the others and sneered. "Very well, you have angered me." Chu Li smiled. "So what? Show me what you're capable of. All of you will feel the consequences of angering me." Zhou Jie coldly said, "You have implicated them." Chu Li said, "You still want to continue causing trouble?" "That's right." Zhou Jie sneered. "You can hide from the spiritual snake, but what about them?" Chu Li said, "Their identities are different from mine. If something really happens to them and they are killed by the spiritual snake, how can you explain it to the Hill Master? Everyone can hear you now. You can't escape." "So what?" Zhou Jie curled his lips. "You are just disciples of the imperial family, not princes. So if anything happens to you, no one can do anything to Goddess Attraction Mountain. Just wait and see, we'll see who will die next time." Slap. Chu Li slapped his face again, it was loud and clear. Everyone felt very relieved. Leng Tao said, "Brother Zhou, we are not friends with Chu Li, we are enemies." Tang Zhao and Li Xuanxin did not speak, they only stared at Zhou Jie. They were secretly angry but also worried. Being in Goddess Attraction Mountain, if they were really harmed, it would be difficult for anyone to take revenge. Goddess Attraction Mountain had an enlightened master, no one could do anything. Enemies? Zhou Jie frowned and looked at Lung Tao. Aren't you from the Ji dynasty? I am enemies with Chu Li. Lung Tao scoffed. I was bullied by him in Fairy's capital, so I am on Brother Zhou's side. Very good. Zhou Jie turned to look at Tang Zhao and Li Xuanxin. What about you guys? Chu Li slapped him again. Bang. Zhou Jie was prepared this time. Their palms met, the sound was shocking. He used all his strength in this slap. He wanted to plot against Chu Li. He was sure that Chu Li would not dare to kill him. Chu Li only used a portion of his inner energy when he slapped him. This gave him an opportunity to use all his strength to injure Chu Li. Thump, 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 thump. He climbed up 4 steps, his face as red as blood. Chu Li sneered and shook his head. All you do is play these little tricks all day long. No wonder you can't cultivate the spirit serpent technique. Zhou Jie's eyes were spitting fire as if he wanted to eat him alive. Chu Li shook his head. What's the point of sowing discord? It's just a joke. I wonder if the Hill Master will be ashamed if he knows you like this. Goddess Attraction Mountain's future is bleak after finding a good-for-nothing like you. How arrogant! Zhou Jie gritted his teeth. It's not too late to say that after you become an inner mountain disciple. Chu Li said, becoming an inner mountain disciple is a piece of cake. Ha ha! Zhou Jie laughed. Chu Li looked at him calmly. You think I can't cultivate the spirit serpent technique? You can't. Zhou Jie sneered. Chu Li said, is there a problem with the spirit serpent technique you gave me? You're gauging the heart of a gentleman with your own mean measure. Zhou Jie gritted his teeth. There's no problem with the spirit serpent technique I gave you, but you won't be able to cultivate it. Chu Li said, then let's wait and see. If you don't leave, don't blame me for being ruthless. Then I'll wait for you to cultivate the spirit serpent technique. Zhou Jie sneered and mounted a white crane. He flew up into the clouds and disappeared. Chapter 1451. Chu Li watched as Zhou Jie disappeared. Zhu Yuan sighed, Brother Chu. He felt that Chu Li was just talking big because he was provoked. It was almost impossible to become an inner mountain disciple. The spirit serpent technique was too difficult and the cultivation progress was slow. Although it was powerful, it was impossible to master it. Lung Tao snorted but did not dare to say anything else. He knew that Chu Li had a bad temper and would slap people for no reason. If he continued to provoke him, he would not be able to escape from Chu Li's hands. Tang Zhao and Li Xuanxin remained silent. Chu Li gave a fist salute. Brother Tang, Brother Li, I'm sorry. This has nothing to do with Brother Chu, Tang Zhao said gravely. Before coming up the mountain, I never would have thought that the disciples of Goddess Attraction Mountain would be so domineering. Li Xian thought to himself, Brother Chu, can you really master the spirit snake art? After being instigated by Zhou Jie, their relationship became closer, and they felt like they were facing a common enemy. Chu Li nodded. I've found the trick to cultivating the spirit serpent technique. Actually, this technique doesn't use the spiritual energy of this world, but the spiritual energy of the outland. If I don't understand this, it'll be difficult to cultivate it. The spiritual energy of the realm beyond heaven. The 3 of them were startled. Chu Li decided to help them, but even so, it would be difficult for the 3 of them to cultivate the spirit snake technique. If he really became all alone on Goddess Attraction Mountain, it would be very uncomfortable. It would affect his energy and delay his cultivation time. In order to avoid these trivial troubles, he didn't mind generously telling her the secrets of the spirit snake incantation. Moreover, the 4 of them were members of the royal family, so there might be opportunities for them to cooperate in the future. Lung Tao pursed his lip. Don't tell me you're trying to fool us. Where did the spiritual energy from the heavens beyond come from? Chu Li cast a sidelong glance at him. Even if there aren't any other places, Goddess Attraction Mountain might still have some. Then how did you know to use the spiritual energy of the sky beyond heavens? Could it be that you found it? Lung Tao scoffed. Chu Li said, take a good look at the primary technique of the spirit serpent technique. The secret is in the primary technique. If you can't understand it, then it's not suitable for you to cultivate the spirit serpent technique. It's better not to waste your time. Lung Tao and the other three were deep in thought, trying to recall the fundamental formula of the spirit serpent incantation, but they couldn't remember it. Their attention was completely focused on the circulation method of the spirit serpent incantation. They tried their best to remember the circulation route, so they only glanced at the fundamental part of the incantation. Wheel? Clang? Grey Halo? Shua by Yen Gongzi? Argon Gopong Base Chu Li could tell just by looking at their expressions. He shook his head and said slowly, Heaven and earth, the cage of all living things, spiritual energy, the soul of all living things. Everyone immediately pricked up their ears to listen to every word that Chu Li said. Chu Li repeated it twice. When they had memorized it, he closed fist saluted and left. He returned to his courtyard and sat cross-legged on his bed to start channeling the spirit serpent technique. He wasn't boasting before. He was confident that he could successfully cultivate the spirit serpent incantation. Moreover, if he couldn't even cultivate the insignificant spirit serpent incantation, how could he talk about the dragon control art? Defying the heavens and becoming a god would be a huge joke. The extreme Yang Qi activated the spirit serpent incantation, and he advanced it to the third level in one go. He continued to cultivate, and the inner force cultivated by the third level of the spirit serpent incantation had a mellow feeling, and it was no longer as hard as before. Chu Li fell into deep thought and realized that there was something familiar about this mellow aura. It was the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture's inner energy contained in the 6 chakras. With a flash of inspiration, he simply mobilized the aura within the 6 chakras and started to activate the spirit serpent incantation. He started from the 4th level of the heart technique and completed it in one go. Then, he continued to the 5th level, the 6th level, and finally the 8th level in one go. When he was about to reach the 9th level, there was only 1/10 of the mellow aura left in the 6 chakras. He didn't dare to use all of it, as the mellow aura would decrease with every use, and it couldn't be recovered. However, he cultivated it to the 8th level in one go. The hard and spiritual aura flowed along the 8th level of the heart technique and quickly formed a mellow aura. Although it wasn't as good as the inner energy of the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture, it was about 50 to 60% similar. The hard and yang aura flowed along the 8th level of the heart technique and continuously formed a mellow aura. After a while, the mellow aura in his dantian became vigorous. He then used this mellow aura to move it according to the 8th level of the heart technique and purify it. After more than 10 circulations, the mellow aura became even purer, but it still couldn't reach the depth of the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture. It was 30 to 40% away, and no matter how pure it was, it couldn't reach it. Chu Li sighed and shook his head helplessly. It seemed that the 9th level of the spirit serpent technique was difficult to achieve in a short period of time. Unless he completely used up the aura of the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture, then he would be able to perfect the spirit serpent technique. However, this mellow aura was used to save his life. Even if the spirit serpent technique was perfected, it wouldn't reach the purity and power of the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture. He kept weighing the pros and cons, but in the end, he resisted the temptation and didn't use up the remaining inner energy of the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture. He only tried his best to activate the 8th level of the spirit serpent technique, wanting to rely on grinding. Unfortunately, he cultivated for 10 days in one go and his progress was minimal. It was no wonder that Zhou Jie couldn't perfect it. The last level was too difficult and it required grinding. At this rate, it would take at least 3 years to perfect it. He smiled bitterly to himself. This was forcing him to use the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture. Once the 10 days were up, he personally went to the spirit herb nursery and picked a bag of spirit herbs. There were 20 stalks of each spirit herb, and then he rode the white crane up to the clouds. He landed in front of the palace and saw Zhou Jie waiting there. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and walked up to him with the spirit herbs. Zhou Jie's expression was calm. He looked at Chu Li as if he was a different person. Chu Li said, "Senior Zhou, do you want to check the spirit herbs?" Zhou Jie said calmly, "No need. I'm just telling you, you're not allowed to hurt Xiao Bai." Chu Li nodded. The omniscient mirror was activated. Unfortunately, Zhou Jie had a treasure weapon on him, so he couldn't see his inner thoughts. Through his subtle expressions, Chu Li could tell that he was very calm. He didn't seem excited at all when he saw his enemy. This made Chu Li very curious. He opened his mouth to test. "I want to apologize to Senior Zhou for what happened last time. I was too impulsive." This seemed like an apology, but it was actually to poke at Chu Li's wound to provoke him again. Zhou Jie shook his head slowly and said, "Forget it. I was the one who humiliated myself. I provoked others when my skills were inferior. I only have myself to blame." Chu Li was shocked. Zhou Jie said, "The cultivation of the spirit serpent technique is difficult. I need to overcome all kinds of inner demons. You'll know in the future that I did that because of my inner demons. Now I have to thank you for helping me overcome my inner demons. I've completely woken up and improved." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. He had cultivated up to the 8th level in one go, but he didn't find any inner demons. Maybe it was because he had done it in one go, or maybe it was because he had the Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture and the omniscient mirror. Back when he cultivated the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture, he almost died. His mind was as firm as steel, so he wasn't affected by inner demons. Zhou Jie said, "Junior brother Chu, which level are you at?" He realized that he couldn't see through Chu Li's level of the spirit serpent technique. Instead, he felt an even greater pressure. His spirit serpent technique had advanced to the next level and his cultivation level had increased greatly. Theoretically, he should be able to overcome the previous pressure, but he didn't expect the pressure to be even stronger. Chu Li said, "The 8th level." Zhou Jie's calm face finally changed. He said hoarsely, "The 8th level?" Chapter 1452. Chu Li smiled, "That's right." "How is that possible?" Zhou Jie looked at him in shock. Chu Li smiled, "I guess I was lucky. I was able to reach the 8th level in one go. Maybe my foundation is not stable so I can't reach the 9th level. It's really worrying." Zhou Jie's expression was inexplicably complicated. He sighed, "I didn't expect you to reach the 8th level. Looks like you'll definitely become an inner mountain disciple." Chu Li smiled and nodded, "Please guide me, brother Zhou. Please guide me." Zhou Jie waved his hand, "Go ahead and take care of Xiao Bai." He turned around and slowly walked into the basilica. He staggered and almost fell. It was rare for someone like him to have such a high level of martial arts. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. Fortunately, no matter how much he changed, he still had the temperament of a young man. He was competitive and had weaknesses. If he was as calm as he appeared to be, it would be more troublesome and difficult to deal with. This could almost destroy his confidence. He did not know when he would be able to regain his spirit. Maybe he could defeat him in one go. That would be great. He collected his thoughts and turned towards the ravine. A moment later, he arrived at the valley. Before he could put down the bag of spirit herbs, a green shadow flashed by. A jasper-like spirit snake shot towards him. It hissed angrily and glared at him with its cold vertical pupils. Its cold eyes seemed to be filled with anger. Chu Li calmly struck with his palm. He used the inner energy of the 8th level of the Spirit Serpent technique. It was rich and gentle. Bang! The Jasper Spirit Snake suddenly bounced off and rolled on the ground. It coiled up and looked at him. The omniscient mirror saw the inner energy of the Spirit Serpent technique entering the body of the Jasper Spirit Snake. It penetrated into its flesh and strengthened its flesh. Not only did it not get hurt, it became stronger instead. Chuli nodded to himself. It seemed like his guess was right. The Spirit Serpent technique could strengthen the Spirit Snake and turn it into a dragon or even a real dragon. From there, it could ride the clouds and fly to the outland. Chuli struck again with his palm. The inner energy of the Spirit Serpent technique attacked the Jasper Spirit Snake from afar. It coiled on the ground motionlessly. The snake's head laid down softly. Chuli continuously struck with his palm. He used all the inner energy of the Spirit Serpent technique stored in his dantian. Only when his dantian was empty did he stop. The Spirit Snake was already coiled on the ground, motionless, as if it had gone into hibernation. Chuli could feel that it was constantly strengthening. The next time he came, it might be able to shed its skin. Therefore, he placed the spirit herb pouch next to its mouth and glided away from the ravine. When he arrived in front of the palace, he was about to ride the crane down. Zhou Jie suddenly appeared from the palace and cupped his fists. Junior brother Chu. Chu Li closed fist saluted. What can I do for you, brother Zhou? Zhou Jie extended his hand and invited them in. Let's talk inside the hall. Chu Li looked at him. Zhou Jie looked at him sincerely. Chu Li smiled and nodded, then followed him into the basilica. The hall was empty and spacious, but it exuded a solemn aura. There were 2 golden prayer mats on the white jade floor, and a painting hung on the north wall. In the painting was a handsome middle-aged man with a long sword at his waist. His long robes fluttered in the wind as he stepped on a huge dragon and shuttled through the clouds. He was in high spirits as he looked down upon the world. Chu Li's gaze involuntarily fell on the middle-aged man, then slowly turned to the huge dragon under his feet. Only the dragon's claws and body could be seen, but not the dragon's head. The dragon's body was hidden in the clouds, faintly discernible. It seemed to be flying diagonally upwards, passing through the clouds and continuing upwards. Its imposing manner was earth-shattering. Chu Li looked at the huge dragon in admiration. The evil nether dragon was much weaker than this dragon. This could be considered a real dragon. Zhou Jie stood at the side. This is the founder of Goddess Attraction Mountain. If you can enter the mountain, you will have to meet the founder and receive the dragon taming technique. Chu Li said, even if I become an inner mountain disciple, I can't cultivate the dragon taming technique, right? I heard that only an official disciple like Brother Zhou can cultivate the dragon taming technique. Yes. Zhou Jie nodded slowly. The dragon taming technique requires a special aptitude. Chu Li smiled. What kind of aptitude? Zhou Jie shook his head. I don't know either. Only Master and Grandmaster know. But in the past 1,000 years, there has been no other inner mountain disciple. Junior brother Chu, you may be the first. Chu Li said, Senior brother Zhou, you asked me to come here because? I want to ask about the secrets of the Spirit Serpent technique. Zhou Jie looked at him calmly and said sincerely, I hope Junior brother Chu will not be stingy with your guidance. Chu Li looked at him in surprise. Zhou Jie thought about it and gritted his teeth. I can pass on one of the secrets of the Spirit Serpent technique to Junior brother Chu. What secret? Chu Li asked. He was thinking about what Zhou Jie wanted to do. Could it be that he really wanted to ask him about the wonders of the Spirit Serpent technique? Logically, there was no need for this. He could just ask his master. Zhou Jie should know the fundamentals of the Spirit Serpent technique. Zhou Jie said, to perfect the Spirit Serpent technique, you actually need the help of a dragon, even a dragon. Without the help of a dragon, it will be difficult to perfect it. The help of a dragon. Chu Li frowned and pondered. Zhou Jie nodded. Without dragon energy, the spirit serpent technique cannot be perfected. It will be useless no matter how long you cultivate it. I see that junior brother Chu has cultivated to the 8th level. If you don't know this secret, you will never be able to perfect the 9th level in your lifetime. Actually, even if he did not say this secret, his master would tell him after he came out of isolation. It was better to do him a favor. There must be a shortcut to be able to cultivate the spirit serpent technique to the 8th level in 10 days. Chu Li thought about it and said, to cultivate the spirit serpent technique, you need to cultivate with spiritual energy from the outland. Senior brother Zhou should know this secret, right? Spiritual energy from the outland? Zhou Jie frowned. Chu Li saw that he did not know and smiled. Our goddess attraction mountain not only has spiritual energy from this world, but it is also filled with spiritual energy from the outland. If you absorb it into your body to cultivate the spirit serpent technique, you will get twice the result with half the effort and cultivate faster. He was a little curious. Why did Zhou Jie's master not mention this? Did he want Zhou Jie to understand it himself? Zhou Jie said, you can sense the spiritual energy from the outland? Very easy. Chu Li nodded. Once you understand the general outline of the spirit serpent technique, you can sense the spiritual energy from the outland. Good. Zhou Jie closed fist saluted. Thank you, junior brother Chu. Chu Li smiled. I still have to thank you, senior brother Zhou. Both of them were satisfied with this deal. Chu Li closed fist saluted. Then I will leave. Good. Zhou Jie closed fist saluted and nodded. He stood on the steps outside the palace and watched as Chu Li sat on the white crane and flew away. His handsome face turned gloomy and his gaze turned cold. He took a deep breath and calmed down. He was the reincarnation of a deva and would definitely become an enlightened master. Why should he stoop to Chu Li's level? No matter how powerful Chu Li was, it would be difficult for him to become an enlightened master. Even if he did, he would be far inferior to him. Enlightened masters were also divided. The enlightened master of Goddess Attraction Mountain was the strongest enlightened master and could freely enter the outland. As he thought about this, his turbulent emotions calmed down again. He shook his head and turned to leave. Chu Li returned to his courtyard and paced with his hands behind his back. He looked up at the sky and pondered. It seemed like he had to return to the 10 ultimate vitality lock formation. To perfect the spirit serpent technique, he needed the evil nether dragon. The spirit serpent technique cultivated spiritual energy from the outland. He was not afraid of being in the 10 ultimate vitality lock formation, as he could escape at any time. Moreover, he still had the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture's inner energy left in his umbilical chakra, which was enough for him to escape. P.S. Update complete. Chapter 1453. He went out to look for Zhu Yuan and told him that he wanted to go down the mountain. Zhu Yuan nodded without asking and passed Chu Li's waist tag to him. With this waist tag, he could return to Goddess Attraction Mountain the next time. Without it, he could not enter Goddess Attraction Mountain as there was an invisible force blocking him. They could not climb the inner mountain with their light body technique. After Chu Li received the waist tag, he rode a white crane and descended to the foot of the mountain. He then used his light body technique to leave. After traveling for 100 miles, he suddenly disappeared and reappeared at the peak of the mountain, ready to enter the valley. As soon as he appeared, his expression changed. There were 4 people sitting cross-legged on the peak. There were 2 red-robed monks and 2 middle-aged men in green. They were in groups of 2 and were about 10 meters apart from each other. Chu Li's appearance attracted the attention of the 2 groups, and they looked at him. Chu Li frowned. These 2 monks were from the Reincarnation Temple. When they saw Chu Li, their expressions changed and they cried out, Chu Li! Chu Li and Sun Mingwei had joined hands to wreak havoc in the Reincarnation Temple. They had utterly defeated the Reincarnation Temple's masters and almost wiped them out. To the disciples of the Reincarnation Temple, this was the greatest humiliation they had suffered in the last few hundred years. Even though they were monks, they could not help but hate the two of them. They recognized Chu Li as soon as they saw him. Chu Li nodded and looked at the two middle-aged men in green. He used the omniscient mirror to identify them. They were high officials of the Qiu dynasty's imperial house and were the top masters of the Qiu dynasty. Chu Li? The two middle-aged men in green looked at the two red-robed monks. The two red-robed monks stared at Chu Li with their bodies tensed. They clenched their fists but did not attack. They knew that Chu Li's martial arts was powerful, and it would be useless to attack him. Chu Li asked, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" One of the Reincarnation Temple monks scoffed. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. "The scenery here is nice. I'm here to take a look. This isn't a scenic spot. Please leave." The middle-aged man in green said, "Otherwise, we'll have to attack you and ask you to leave." Chu Li chuckled. "Are you high officials of the Qiu dynasty's imperial house?" "That's right." The two of them looked serious. They looked at the two monks. The monk shook his head and gestured for them not to attack. Chu Li said, "In that case, you're guarding the gate. Someone went down?" Their expressions changed slightly. The monk from the Temple of Double Reincarnation asked in a deep voice, "Why does almsgiver Chu say so?" Chu Li smiled. "Monk Luan Ming and the Qiu dynasty's emperor found out about this place through us." "How can I not know what you guys are doing? Then what do you want?" A middle-aged man in a green robe asked. "I want to go down and have a look." Chu Li shook his head and said, "But you should be prepared. The people who went down there are probably dead by now. There's a 10 absolute vitality lock down there, so inner energy can't be used. Moreover, there's a dragon." "Impossible." The green-robed middle-aged man shook his head and said, "There are no dragons now. All the spirit beasts had entered the 100,000 hills, and the dragon no longer existed in this world. It was as if it had entered the outland, so there were no longer any dragons in this world." How could they believe Chu Li when he said that there was a dragon down there? Chu Li said, "The world is full of surprises. If there weren't any accidents, they would have come here a long time ago, right?" All four of them wore solemn expressions. They did not know what was down there. Monk Luan Ming knew that Chu Li and Sun Mingyue's martial arts had improved greatly after they fell off the cliff. The two of them could fight against an enlightened master if they worked together, so he wanted to find out. Chen Jinji forced himself to help them to find out, but he would never tell anyone else. Chu Li shook his head. "You guys have been here for a while, right?" 10 days, one of the monks from the Reincarnation Temple said slowly. Chu Li smiled. "I'm afraid they're dead. Why don't you follow me down there and have a look?" "There's no need." The monk from the Reincarnation Temple shook his head. Chu Li said, "Then I'll go down myself." "Almsgiver Chu, you can't go down," the monk from the Reincarnation Temple said. Chu Li smiled at him. The monk from the Reincarnation Temple said, "No one is allowed to enter without permission from the temple." Chu Li smiled and said, "It seems like Monk Luan Ming wants to monopolize the benefits. This is a serious matter. Please forgive us, Almsgiver Chu." One of the monks said slowly, "If Almsgiver Chu really wants to go down, you can discuss it with Masters Junior Luan Ming first." Chu Li said, "Discuss it with Monk Luan Ming? If I want to go in, it's not his place to tell me what to do. Goodbye." He appeared behind them in a flash and floated down. Swoosh! 4 rays of light flashed. 2 black and 2 white sun and moon wheels were shot at him in the air. Chu Li was in the air and gently stretched out his palms. He grabbed the 4 sun and moon wheels and threw them out. The 2 monks' expressions changed drastically and they quickly retreated. The power contained in the sun and moon wheels was extremely strange. It was the unique transformation power of the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture. It could change multiple times in a single breath. No one else would be able to withstand it, but Chu could. The two monks knew something was wrong. They had a premonition of what Chu was going to do. However, they could not avoid the sun and moon wheel's attack. They were sent flying more than 20 meters away by the tyrannical power contained in the wheels. They fell to the ground and could not move. Chu dusted off his palms and floated back to his original position. He looked at the two middle-aged men in green. "Do you want to fight too?" The two men shook their heads in silence. No matter how stupid they were, they knew it was useless to fight. The two monks from the reincarnation temple were better than them in martial arts, but they could not withstand a single move. The outcome of their fight was predictable. Chu glanced at them and said, "Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't come down. You're courting death." "Thank you for the reminder," the two men said. Chu nodded and floated down again. After falling 100 meters, his body suddenly sank and his inner energy dissipated. The Supreme King Kong in his mind opened his eyes. 7 wheels were opened, and the Nirvana wheel absorbed the spiritual energy from the void. The energy of extreme yang rolled in. In the blink of an eye, it descended from the Nirvana wheel to the chakra between the brows, and then all the way down to the undersea chakra. A trace of extreme yang energy began to activate the light body technique, and slowly descended. By the time he landed on the grass, the extreme yang energy had filled the undersea chakra. He stood on the grass and did not rush to move. He activated the omniscient mirror and saw that there was no one around. The evil underworld dragon in the pool did not move either. He could not help but frown. Could it have already left? Then, he shook his head. The 10 absolute vitality sealing formation was here, so it was impossible for the evil underworld dragon to leave. The key was that the few masters who landed earlier were nowhere to be seen. The omniscient mirror had already entered the cave, so there was no one inside. The cave was hidden and in midair. Without the omniscient mirror, it would be impossible to find it. As expected, the masters did not find it. There was no sign of them in the entire valley. The only possibility was that they were in the pool. He shook his head. If they were in the pool, it would be a disaster. He calmed his mind and filled the 6 chakras with extreme yang energy. A trace of rich energy was stored deep in the umbilical chakra to be used as a valley. Chapter 1454. Chu frowned. Why wasn't the evil nether dragon looking for him? Could it have perished together with the other masters? He immediately shook his head. Even if it perished together, he would still be able to see the corpse, but now he couldn't see it. The only possibility was that it was hiding in its cave. He took a deep breath and swam downstream, slowly observing the bottom of the lake. The gently swaying water plants were like the forest outside moving with the wind. A gentle and tranquil feeling enveloped him, making him feel inexplicably relaxed. He quickly braced himself and didn't let himself relax. It was very dangerous here. The evil nether dragon was more powerful than he imagined. Fortunately, he could use the spiritual energy of the Grandmaster, or else he would be courting death in the pool. The evil nether dragon had the ability to resist water, so it attacked silently. Moreover, the omniscient mirror was useless here, so he had to rely on intuition. After sinking 100 meters, he slowly felt the pressure, but the evil nether dragon still hadn't appeared. Chu became more vigilant. Every pore on his body stood up, his body relaxed, and his mind tensed up. Bang! He suddenly slammed his palm behind him. Intuition told him that there was danger coming from behind, so he immediately slammed his palm. The extremely firm palm energy turned into a bomb in the water, forming a surging current that crashed behind him. The silent evil nether dragon crashed into this current. The surging current was split in two, like a hot knife cutting through butter. It silently approached, not slowing down the dragon at all. Chu stomped on the ground and crawled upwards. His speed and the huge buoyancy of the pool made him shoot out like an arrow. He was extremely fast, barely avoiding the dagger-like teeth of the evil nether dragon. With a crack-crack sound it chased after him. Chu-Li kept slamming his palm energy, pushing him to accelerate. With the buoyancy, his speed was even faster than the evil nether dragon. In the blink of an eye, he drilled out of the water and leaped up. Crack! The evil nether dragon's teeth opened and closed, and the sound of them colliding was chilling. Its teeth were like 2 rows of daggers, glinting under the sunlight. Chu-Li turned in the air and swept out, once again avoiding the evil nether dragon. Roar! The evil nether dragon let out a long roar and chased after him at an extremely fast speed. Chu-Li reached the shore, not in a hurry to use his light body technique. He ran at his original speed, stepping on the lush green grass, faster than a galloping horse. The evil dark dragon chased after him, ready to bite his back at any moment. Chu-Li's expression turned solemn as he realized that the evil dark dragon's power had increased tremendously. It had increased by 2 levels compared to the last time he met it. Why did this happen? Chu-Li speculated that it must have eaten the masters who had barged in earlier. The evil dark dragon had the body of a dragon, and because it had been trapped in the 10 extreme origin sealing formation for nearly 1,000 years, it had not been nourished by spiritual energy and had not eaten flesh. Otherwise, its strength would have been shocking, and Sun Mingyue and him would not have been able to escape. If there were no accidents, its strength would not increase, but it would gradually weaken. If it strengthened, it must have eaten a few top-notch grandmasters. When he thought of this, killing intent rose in his heart. He was afraid that he couldn't keep it alive. After eating humans, it would become addicted. Once the 10 absolute origin locking formation was broken and it escaped from the valley, it would definitely be a catastrophe. With the nourishment of spiritual energy and flesh, it would quickly recover its strength, and even enlightened masters would not be able to deal with it. Thinking of this, he turned around and slapped down. Bang! With a muffled sound, the palm solidly hit its head. The evil dark dragon's forward momentum paused, and then it bit down again, but it was not injured. After the firm and yang inner energy drilled into its body, it did not damage its body. Instead, it was defeated by an invisible force, and it did not pose a threat. Chu-Li frowned. It seemed that he needed to use the rich aura of the Supreme Diamond Scripture to deal with it. Unfortunately, he only had 1/10 of it left to escape. He could not rush to use it now, or else it would be difficult to get out of this formation. He suddenly looked up at the sky. The 4 figures fell straight down like stones. Bang bang! Bang bang! With 4 muffled sounds, the 4 fell into the pool. Chu-Li's expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly shouted, "Quickly leave the pool." After falling from such a high place, the water's surface seemed soft, but it was no different from mud. They could not use inner energy, so they were dizzy from the fall. When they heard Chu-Li's shout, they subconsciously moved and began to swim to the shore. The evil dark dragon's movements suddenly sped up, and it abandoned him and turned to leave. Like a shadow, it drilled into the pool and then disappeared without a sound. Chu-Li hurriedly shouted, "Quick! Quick!" He bent down, picked up 4 stones, and threw them at the 4 people. With a sharp whistle, the 4 people were hit by the stones and flew out of the pool, landing on the grass. The 4 people spat out a mouthful of blood. They were already injured. At first glance, it looked like Chu-Li had attacked the 4 people. Stop! With a shout, another 4 people fell from the sky. Roar! The evil dark dragon drilled out of the pool and let out a long roar, glaring at Chu-Li angrily. Chu-Li shouted, "Be careful, it will eat you." With that, he shot out 4 small stones again, which let out a sharp whistle. The 4 people who fell from the sky suddenly flew out and were hit by the stones more than 10 meters away. They fell and rolled with the previous 4 people. Fortunately, they were not injured, and Chuli was already trying his best to control it. Chuli shouted, "Run! Run!" As he spoke, he rushed toward them. Although these 8 people were high officials of the Reincarnation Temple and the Great Qiu dynasty's imperial house, he could not watch them be eaten by the evil dark dragon. Not to mention that they were all humans, the evil dark dragon's strength would skyrocket after eating them. It was impossible to subdue it and obtain the dragon energy from it to cultivate. The evil dark dragon drilled out of the water and shot toward the 8 people like a shadow. In the 10 absolute vitality sealing formation, Chuli could not use the void diversion technique, so he could only use the energy of extreme yang to activate his light body technique. Like a flash of lightning, he blocked the evil dark dragon before it could bite one of the people and attacked with both palms. Bang! The evil dark dragon's teeth were hit by the palm energy, and it immediately took a step back. The numbness on its teeth prevented it from continuing to open its mouth. Roar! The evil dark dragon roared angrily, turned around, and swung its tail. Bang! He attacked with his palms again. An unstoppable force came from its tail, and Chuli was directly swept away. Bang! 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 The remaining 8 people were swept by the tail, and they spat out arrows of blood in the air. With this tail, even a rock would turn into powder, let alone a body of flesh and blood. If Chuli had not tried his best to block it, they would not have survived. Chuli shouted, "Run! Run into the forest!" The 8 people gritted their teeth and ran with all their might. They did not care about their injuries, and they spat out blood as they ran. Chuli suddenly shouted, "Moo!" The evil dark dragon's movements paused, and then it glared fiercely at him. New hatred and old hatred surged in its heart. Those 8 people would be its delicious meal sooner or later, so it was not in a hurry to eat them. After all, it did not know when it would have such delicious food again. It wanted to kill Chuli first so that it could enjoy the delicious food in peace. It swung its tail and rushed toward Chuli, its movements extremely fast. Chuli attacked with his palms. Bang, 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 bang! The 2 clashed head-on. Chuli continuously attacked with his palms, accurately hitting the evil dark dragon. With the omniscient mirror and the nature restoration manifestation, he could predict the evil dark dragon's movements. Chapter 1455. Chuli retreated as he fought. He was forced back step by the evil dark dragon, but his retreat was not chaotic. He was able to hold on. Although the evil dark dragon had the advantage, it could not overwhelm him or hurt him. The evil dark dragon kept biting at Chuli as if it was inflexible and did not know how to change to another method. It just kept attacking. Chuli knew that it was more intelligent than people, even better than ordinary people. Its advantage was its body. Its endurance was almost endless. Chuli's body was ordinary. Even if he could use inner energy, it felt that there would be a limit. It would be hard to keep going. It had a long life, so it felt that 1 or 2 days was just a blink of an eye. It was not in a hurry to kill Chuli and just kept attacking. It wanted to slowly wear Chuli down and get rid of this danger. Chuli had something to rely on. No matter how strong the evil dark dragon was, as long as he used the rich energy of the supreme diamond scripture, he could injure it and escape. That was why he kept fighting the evil dark dragon. The 8 of them burrowed into the forest and climbed up the trees to watch. They heard explosions as Chuli and the evil dark dragon fought fiercely, causing them to suck in a breath of cold air. In a situation where he couldn't use his inner energy, Chuli was able to block the evil dark dragon. They thought that if Chuli did not fight them, they would have already died in the stomach of the evil dark dragon. Time passed slowly, and Chuli was multitasking. On one hand, he was urging the unyielding and purest yang energy to fight with the evil nether dragon, and on the other hand, he was using the nirvana wheel to absorb the spiritual energy from the outland. The unyielding and purest yang energy entered his body and poured it directly into his meridians to circulate. he unknowingly balanced the speed of absorption and consumption. It would not be a problem to fight like this for a day and night. His body was strong enough to hold on. When the sun set and dusk shrouded the sky, the two were still fighting fiercely. With a whistle, the two figures floated down. When they reached the top of the valley, they suddenly dropped like stones into the pool. The evil dark dragon suddenly turned around and swung its tail. Then, it took advantage of Chu Li's dodge to quickly escape. It no longer paid attention to Chu Li and quickly entered the pool. Chu Li already saw the two people who fell, Monk Luan Ming and Chen Jinji. The two enlightened masters finally could not resist and came down. He didn't throw the pebble to save the two of them. Heavenly God experts should be able to stop the evil dark dragon. The current evil dark dragon was far from its peak, and it might not be a match for two heavenly God experts. Bang! Water splashed as Monk Luan Ming and Chen Jinji suddenly struck the evil underworld dragon with their palms. Chu Li's eyebrows twitched. It seemed that they were able to activate their inner energy even in the valley. Clearly, it was not the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, but the spiritual energy of Outland. It turned out that enlightened masters could also mobilize the spiritual energy of Outland. Bang! 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 The pool started to boil, and water splashed everywhere. The evil dark dragon was silent and could not be seen moving. However, the two of them continuously attacked with their palms, causing explosions to ring out. Chu Li shook his head. It was very difficult for their palm energy to hurt the evil dark dragon, especially in the water. The evil dark dragon in the water was especially terrifying as it could repel water, so no matter how powerful their palm energy was, it could not hurt it in the water. He didn't warn the two heavenly deities. Instead, he had to worry about his own safety. If Sun Mingyue was here, he would still have some confidence. Now that he was alone against the two of them, he had no chance of winning. He could not even escape. If he could use the Deva shedding technique, the two of them might not be able to. He stared at the pool with a frown and slowly walked to the side. Bang! The two of them suddenly drilled out of the pool and took a few steps in the air. The evil dark dragon followed closely behind, its 2 rows of teeth making kacha sounds. It wanted to chew and swallow the two of them, but it was always one step too late. The two of them were extremely fast and managed to avoid it every time. Once they left the pool, Monk Luan Ming and Chen Jinji's power instantly increased. The evil dark dragon was no longer as fierce as before and was immediately at a disadvantage. The palm energy that hit its body would hinder its movement. However, Chu Li's omniscient mirror could see clearly that although the two of them were enlightened masters, they could not hurt the evil dark dragon. Although its movements were somewhat clumsy, it was fast and its skin was thick, so it was not afraid of being hit. The two of them and the dragon fought from the shore to the forest. The 8 of them who hid in the forest fled outwards, but they saw the trees breaking one by one. The evil dark dragon's tail swept past, and the thick trees were like thin sticks that had no resistance and were easily broken. The two of them blocked and retreated at the same time. Seeing that the 8 of them were still there, they let out a sigh of relief. However, after more than 100 palm strikes, they realized that they could not do anything to the evil dark dragon. The evil dark dragon's body was strong, and their palm energy could not hurt it at all. "Master, don't hide your trump card anymore," Chen Jinji said. Monk Luan Ming nodded slowly. His red monk robe slowly puffed up as if it was filled with air, but in the blink of an eye, it returned to normal. Monk Luan Ming's face was as white as jade, and the emotions on his body seemed to have faded away completely. He was like a statue of Buddha in a temple. His eyes were calm as he looked at the evil dark dragon. His hands formed a mudra and slowly pressed down. Following his mudra, Chu Li could faintly see a giant Buddha appear in the sky. The giant Buddha raised his right hand and pressed down. His right palm slowly appeared in the void. The palm was golden and combined with Monk Luan Ming's right palm. As it pushed out, the golden color became brighter and brighter until it was as brilliant as gold. Chen Jinji's eyes flashed like lightning. Chu Li's omniscient mirror could see everything clearly. An emerald light fell from the sky and entered his baihui. The emerald light spread throughout his body and turned into a whirlpool that spun faster and faster. His body was suffering from extreme torture, and the emerald light was extremely harmful. In the blink of an eye, he was heavily injured. The whirlpool suddenly disappeared and condensed into a pool of emerald water. The emerald water began to flow through his body, and his injuries instantly recovered. Finally, only a little bit was left in his palms. Bang! Both of his palms hit the evil dark dragon's head, and the emerald water poured into it. Bang! Monk Luan Ming's right palm also hit the evil dark dragon's head. Woo! The evil dark dragon let out a long roar and shook its body in rage. Monk Luan Ming and Chen Jinji were sent flying. The 8 of them who had escaped not far away started to bleed from their mouths and noses. They fell to the ground and fainted from the evil dark dragon's roar. Woo! The evil dark dragon let out a mournful roar. 2 strange forces were wreaking havoc in its body, destroying it. A force surged out of the evil dark dragon's body to fight against them, but its movements became slow and powerless. The emerald water and golden palm energy were not thick, but they were abnormally pure. They were like small swords shuttling through its body. Monk Luan Ming and Chen Jinji looked at each other and activated their secret skills again. Chu Li frowned and shouted helplessly, "Wait! If the 2 of them really killed the evil dark dragon, he would not be able to cultivate the spirit snake technique. Although he wanted to kill the evil dark dragon, he had to save it for later." The 2 of them shot their gazes over like lightning, then turned away and ignored him. 2 more palms hit the evil dark dragon. The evil dark dragon's movements were slow, and it could not dodge in time. It could only watch helplessly as the palms hit it. Woo! It let out a shrill roar and ran towards the pool. Monk Luan Ming and Chen Jinji activated their secret skills again and chased after it. Chapter 1456. The 2 did not stop their secret skills. The Emerald Sky Palm and Buddha's Light Palm attacked Chu Li. Chu Li quickly retreated and tried to distract the 2. However, the 2 did not chase after him but the evil nether dragon. Chu Li had no choice but to block the evil nether dragon's back and watch it get closer to the pool. As long as it entered the pool, the 2 could not do anything to the evil nether dragon even with the Emerald Sky Palm and Buddha's Light Palm. In the 10 Absolute Vitality Sealing Formation, his light body technique was better than the 2. He could not use inner energy and could only use the spiritual energy of the Grandmaster. The 3 were not very strong, but Chu Li's body was strong. The magical effects of the Giant Spirit Pill and Wind Speed Pill showed. His speed was better than theirs. When he stood in front of the 2 again, Monk Luan Ming and Chen Jinji attacked him together. They were filled with murderous intent toward Chu Li. A Grandmaster who could threaten an enlightened master like him had to be killed. It was not out of personal grudges, but out of public concern. A Grandmaster like him was not bound by the heavenly rules, so he posed a huge threat to the Qiu dynasty. Bam! Chu Li helplessly faced the 2's palm energy. Although his body technique was fast, he had to fight with them to save the evil nether dragon. He flew backward and hit the evil nether dragon's tail. The evil dark dragon turned its head and glanced at him. It didn't care about waving its tail and hurting him. It sped up and jumped into the pool of water. Without a single splash, it disappeared into the pool. Chu Li spat out a mouthful of blood and secretly sighed in relief. He finally saved it. "Stop," Chu Li said in a low voice. Monk Luan Ming and Chen Jinji shook their heads and used their secret skills to fight him again. Chu Li hurriedly kicked his legs in an attempt to avoid the 2 of them. 2 strange forces surged through his internal organs and blocked his meridians. He could not use his light body technique, so he could only rely on his body's speed to fight against the two of them. Unfortunately, the two were better and he suffered 2 more palm attacks. Pfft. He spat out another mouthful of blood in the air. His organs were destroyed like broken walls. The two's palm energy was strange and powerful. If it was not for his strong body and amazing vitality, he would have died. However, no matter how strong his vitality was, the life and death scripture could not be used. His injuries did not slow down but worsened. If this continued, he would die. He didn't dare to hesitate any longer. He cast aside the thought of getting lucky, knowing that the two of them wanted to kill him. The remaining rich aura in his umbilical chakra circulated. He swung his arms at the same time to meet the two people in front of him. 2 rays of cold light flashed past. Monk Luan Ming and Chen Jinji tried their best to move sideways, but they were unable to avoid the flying dagger. Both of them were hit in the chest. However, they did not care at all. They chased after Chu Li again and attacked him with their palms. Bang! Chu Li fell to the ground and struggled helplessly, but he could not move. Monk Luan Ming and Chen Jinji both knelt on the ground. Their fingers quickly tapped on their chests to stop the bleeding, but the mellow blade energy was still circulating in their internal organs. The two of them could only use their secret techniques again. The blue sky palm and the Buddha's light palm quickly blocked the mellow blade energy, preventing it from wreaking havoc in their internal organs. The two of them gritted their teeth as they stood up and slowly approached Chu Li. Chu Li, is this the place where you had your fortuitous encounter? Chen Jinji asked in a low voice. His face was extremely gloomy. Even though he had teamed up with Monk Luan Ming, they were still injured by Chu Li alone. It was truly humiliating. They had long been on guard against his flying dagger, but they did not expect to not be able to completely avoid it. Where is the fortuitous encounter? Chen Jinji continued to ask. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. Your Majesty wants to obtain that fortuitous encounter? That's right. Chen Jinji scoffed. He did not care, but if the imperial family obtained it, the Qiu dynasty would definitely prosper. They might even be able to compete with the Fu dynasty. When he reached the Grandmaster's boundary, he would also be praised by his ancestors. Chu Li shook his head. It's just a strange fruit. We ate it. Don't even think about it. Where's the fruit tree? Tell me and I'll give you a quick death, Chen Jinji said coldly. Chu Li glanced at Monk Luan Ming. Great Master, you want to torture me too? Namo Amitabha. Monk Luan Ming pressed his palms together and closed his eyes in silence. Chu Li sighed. Looks like we're all jackals of the same tribe. Say it. Chu Li, you're a smart man. You know what to do, Chen Jinji said. Chu Li shook his head. I want to say, but it's a pity that the tree has disappeared. After eating the fruit, the tree withered and soon turned into dust and scattered with the wind. It's impossible to find it now. He felt that he was not lying. The yin-yang fruit tree had indeed disappeared. Only he could stimulate it to grow and bear the yin-yang fruit. No one else could find it. Humph! Chen Jinji stared at him coldly and was about to hit his chest with his palm. Namo Amitabha. Monk Luan Ming sighed and suddenly hit Chu Li's chest with his palm. He did not want to ask about the fortuitous encounter. It would be another bloodbath, and both of them might perish together. Chu Li's vision suddenly turned black and he almost fainted. He suddenly looked up to the sky and let out a long laugh. All of a sudden, he shot into the pool like an arrow released from a bow. Both of their expressions changed. They quickly got up and chased after him. If they did not have the rich blade energy, they could still use their light body technique to catch up. Now, they could only chase after him in vain and watch him fall into the pool. Chu Li fell into the pool and fell like a rock. He was no longer breathing. That last attack just now had used up all of his potential. He only had a sliver of life left and could die at any time. Chen Jinji and Monk Luanming looked at each other and shook their heads helplessly. They did not dare to go down in their current state. The evil dark dragon in the water was almost invincible. No matter how strong their palm energy was, it was useless. They could only kill the evil dark dragon on the shore. Master, can he live? Chen Jinji asked coldly. He was still dissatisfied with Monk Luanming's palm. It was obvious that he wanted to end the Qiu dynasty's hope. Monk Luanming said slowly, "After being hit by my palm, I'm afraid it will be difficult for him to survive." Chu Li is not an ordinary person. Chen Jinji scoffed. Monk Luanming smiled. No matter how strong he is only made of flesh and blood. Look. He suddenly pointed at the pool. The pool was so clear that the bottom could be seen. One could clearly see the situation below. However, the evil dark dragon suddenly appeared and came near Chu Li. It suddenly opened its mouth and swallowed Chu Li in one gulp. Its 2 rows of dagger-like long teeth gave off a cold glint. Chen Jinji smiled. Good. Good. He went to save this monster, but he was killed by it. How ironic. Namo Amitabha. Monk Luanming chanted the name of Buddha. He shook his head and sighed. Almsgiver Chu really has the heart to sacrifice himself to feed the eagle. What a pity, what a pity! If Chu Li was a disciple of the Reincarnation Temple, his cultivation would definitely improve. The Reincarnation Temple would not have to worry about a lack of successors. What a pity, what a pity! Chen Jinji said, Master, what's there to pity? It's better to die like this. This brat is too despicable. He had always been brooding over the miracle fruit that Chu Li mentioned. If he could get his hands on it and nurture a few top-notch grandmasters who could fight against enlightened masters, the fate of the Qiu dynasty would be reversed and they would be able to rise above the Fu dynasty. This was his lifelong wish. Chapter 1457. Master, let's search. Chen Jinji stood up and said, I don't believe Chu Li, he's not telling the truth. Sigh. Monk Luanming shook his head and said, Fortuitous encounters are obtained by fate, it's useless to force those who are not. Master, you believe in fate, but I don't. Chen Jinji shook his head. He spat out another mouthful of blood. The thick blade energy was finally forced out. Monk Luanming shook his head and sighed. What's the point? Master, you should know the importance of this fortuitous encounter, Chen Jinji said coldly. Monk Luanming sighed. This can't be forced. I have to force it. Chen Jinji sneered and turned to leave. Monk Luanming followed him helplessly. The two came to the center of the 8 people. 4 monks and 4 elders. The monk was a monk from the Reincarnation Temple, while the 4 elders were high officials from the imperial house of the Qiu dynasty. They were all top-notch masters, but they looked like they did not know martial arts as they were covered in dust and grass. They were scared ***less when they tried to avoid the fight between 2 people and a dragon. They almost lost their lives when they finally managed to avoid it. Masters Jr. A red-robed monk put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. Then, he sighed and said, It was Benefactor Chu who saved us earlier. Otherwise we would have died in the mouth of that monster. Almsgiver Chu? Monk Luanming was stunned. He nodded slowly and sighed. The 8 people looked at the 2 with dissatisfaction but could not say anything. Chen Jinji said, No matter how many people he saved, he must be killed. Now that he's eaten by that monster, there's no need to say anything. Did you see the person who came in earlier? The 8 people shook their heads. Chen Jinji frowned and did not say anything. Monk Luanming sighed. I'm afraid it's not going to end well. This monster is really scary in the water. Once it falls into the pool, it's hard to survive. Forget it, life and death are fated. Chen Jinji scoffed. Now your mission is to find some rare plants, especially if there are any unique fruits. They may be poisonous, but if handled properly, they can become spirit medicine. The people stared at him as they heard their conversation. Chunjinji said, "If anyone finds it, they will be rewarded handsomely. If they are greedy, don't blame us for being merciless." He coldly glanced at the crowd, dignified and solemn. He was very relieved. These 8 fellows had their martial arts crippled, and were only slightly stronger than ordinary people. They were only at the level of the innate realm. They would not be able to rebel at all. Without his and Monk Luanming's help, they would not be able to get out of the valley. Monk Luanming muttered, "Your Majesty, how are we going to get out of the valley is a problem." "Just fly straight up," Chunjinji said. Monk Luanming shook his head. "I'm afraid it'll be very difficult. This is the cover of a formation. I'll give it a try after I heal myself." Chunjinji snorted. He was not proficient in formations, and he did not bring any formation-breaking talismans with him, because as gods they did not need them at all. The formation could not trap them, but in their current state, they did not have the might of gods, so it was hard to say whether or not they could break the formation. Monk Luanming floated up into the sky. His red monk robe fluttered and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the sky. A moment later, a Buddhist chant came from the sky, "Namo Amitabha." Chunjinji looked up and saw Monk Luanming falling into the pool like a rock, his big red robe fluttering in the wind. Chunjinji hesitated for a moment, then floated up and faced Monk Luanming, slamming his palm down. Bang! Monk Luanming extended his palm to meet the attack, then flew diagonally across the pool. The evil nether dragon's head emerged from the pool, looked at Monk Luanming and Chunjinji who flew past, then slowly sank and disappeared. Once Chunjinji landed, he asked, "How was it?" Monk Luanming shook his head. The secret technique failed. Chunjinji thought for a moment, then said, "I have a formation-breaking secret technique. I'm sure the reincarnation temple has it too?" "I used that secret technique." Monk Luanming shook his head and sighed. "Unfortunately, it was ineffective, it could not break the formation." "I'll try it later," Chunjinji said in a deep voice, then turned his head and stared at the 8 people. "Hurry up and find it." "Yes," everyone replied helplessly. After everyone left, Chunjinji took out a spirit pill and consumed it, but realized it had no effect at all, so he could only use his inner energy to heal himself. 4 hours later, he fluttered his clothes and flew into the sky like a spirit crane. After a moment, he floated down, his face calm. "How is it?" Luanming asked. Chunjinji nodded slowly. "First use the emerald sky palm, then use the palm energy to activate the secret skill to break out of the formation. It's nothing special. This formation can only trap ordinary grandmasters, but it can't trap us." "That's good." Monk Luanming saw that his expression did not seem to be fake, so he nodded and said, "Then let's leave." "Let's find the fruit first," Chunjinji said. Monk Luanming sighed. His Majesty is so smart, how could he be fooled by almsgiver Chu? His fortuitous encounter might not be a miraculous fruit, it might just be a secret manual that was destroyed by them after he cultivated it. No matter how hard he tries to find it, it would be futile. "Not necessarily." Chunjinji shook his head. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, he would not let it go. He would search the entire valley for a few more days and dig 3 feet into the ground. He did not believe that he could not find it. Seeing him like this, Monk Luanming could only sigh helplessly and stop trying to persuade him. The divine light basilica of the great light peak, the setting sun, shone brilliantly on the divine light basilica. Sun Mingyue, dressed in white, was sitting behind a table flipping through a dossier. Her face was covered with a white veil, revealing only her clear eyes. The basilica was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. The green-robed girl who was serving beside her did not move at all and dared not make a sound. Sun Mingyue suddenly frowned, her bright eyes emitting a cold light. The green-robed girl felt a huge force surging out, pressing down on her so much that she could not breathe. She quickly raised her head and looked at Sun Mingyue. Sun Mingyue's white robe fluttered, her bright eyes shining like the stars in the night sky. The Supreme King Kong in Sun Mingyue's mind suddenly opened its eyes. The Nirvana wheel's power of extreme yin and extreme cold poured down. In an instant she sensed Chu Li's existence. Then, her real body slowly formed a hand seal, and a faintly discernible Sanskrit sound rang in her mind. She suddenly realized that Chu Li was dead. She quickly stood up. "Saint?" the green-robed girl hurriedly asked in a low voice. Sun Mingyue looked at her, her bright eyes emitting a cold light. The green-robed girl was so scared that her face turned pale. She felt the temperature around her suddenly drop as if it had turned into an icehouse. Every pore on her body was filled with cold air, and she was about to be frozen. "I'll be back soon," Sun Mingyue said in a low voice. She suddenly disappeared from the basilica, and the next moment, she arrived at the peak of 10 Despair Valley. "Who's there?" 2 high officials of the Qiu dynasty's imperial house and 2 monks from the reincarnation temple saw her and immediately went forward to block her way. Sun Mingyue waved her hand without hesitation. Bam, 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 bam. The 4 of them were sent flying 50 feet away. Sun Mingyue, the 2 monks from the reincarnation temple guessed. They had not seen Sun Mingyue's real face. At this moment, when they saw Sun Mingyue attack, they felt a sense of familiarity and thought of her name. Sun Mingyue glanced at them coldly and leaped down the cliff. Her white robe fluttered as she descended slowly like a cloud. Chapter 1458. Sun Mingyue floated downwards. Just as she was about to enter the 10 absolute origin locking formation, she changed her inner energy to extreme yin and extreme cold energy in time. She floated above the pool and flew diagonally, avoiding the pool. She knew that she could not do anything to the evil dark dragon in the pool, so she did not waste her effort. She saw the 8 grandmasters and 2 enlightened masters in the valley. "Sun Mingyue," Chen Jinji snorted. He turned his head and said, "Master, this is a good opportunity." But Monk Luan Ming hesitated. Sun Mingyue was different from Chu Li. She had an enlightened master. If he killed her, Sun Mingyue would definitely go crazy and seek revenge. Even if he could stop her, he was afraid that she would return the favor with blood and a tooth for a tooth. Instead of dealing with him, she would deal with the reincarnation temple directly. In this way, even if Song Wanqing was punished by the heavens, the reincarnation temple would definitely suffer a great loss of vitality. He really had to be cautious. "Master, you'll definitely regret it if you miss this opportunity," Chen Jinji snorted. "Sigh." Monk Luan Ming nodded slowly and said, "If that's the case, I can only break my vow of killing." "Hypocrite!" Chen Jinji snorted. Monk Luan Ming only needed to follow the heavenly rules. Why would he need to follow the Buddhist precepts? He had broken the precepts of killing countless times, even the precepts of lust. He had no precepts to follow and was extremely carefree. However, this monk was extremely hypocritical. He still looked like an accomplished monk. Chen Jinji only thought about these words in his heart. Sun Mingyue's gaze fell upon the cliff, then she frowned and shook her head. She did not sense Chu Li, so he probably did not go to the cave that they were in. Her gaze fell upon the pond as she could vaguely sense that he was there, but unfortunately, he had already breathed his last. "Did you kill him?" Sun Mingyue asked coldly. Chen Jinji scoffed and said, "You really are related to this Chu Li. Now that he's dead, you want to avenge him, right?" "I want to avenge him," Sun Mingyue said. "You 2 heavenly deities joined hands to kill a single person. You are truly shameless." "Ha ha!" Chen Jinji shook his head and laughed. "Holy Maiden's words are interesting. There's nothing shameless about wanting to kill someone. Not only do we want to kill him, but we also want to kill the Holy Maiden." As he finished speaking, he flew towards Sun Mingyue. Sun Mingyue fluttered backward and punched from afar. Bang! The two men's fist force and palm force collided in the air, producing a dull sound. Chunjinji discovered that he actually did not have an advantage here. As a heavenly god, his strength was reduced by more than half after falling into this formation, while Sun Mingyue's strength did not decrease significantly. As such, the two of them were actually evenly matched. Chunjinji's face darkened as he turned to look at Monk Luan Ming. Master, we can't hold back anymore. Namo Amitba. Monk Luan Ming chanted the name of Buddha. Suddenly, his face became as white as jade. His entire being was rid of the worldly aura, and he became as emotionless and calm as a Buddha statue. He slowly pushed out his palm, and a giant Buddha vaguely appeared in the sky. The giant Buddha's palm merged with his right palm, and golden light shone brilliantly. In an instant, the attack reached Sun Mingyue. A green whirlpool appeared around Chunjinji's body. It turned into a stream of green water that flowed into his right palm and struck towards Sun Mingyue. Sun Mingyue fluttered backward and dodged. She could tell that the two of them had used a secret technique. She was going to use her secret technique to fight for her life. However, the two of them suddenly sped up. Their speed increased greatly under the effect of the secret technique, so she couldn't avoid them. Sun Mingyue didn't have enough time to use her secret technique, so she could only take it head-on. Bam bam! She flew backward for 100 feet and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Her face suddenly turned pale, and then a layer of gold appeared on it as if she had applied gold powder on it. Her injuries were extremely severe, and her life was in danger. The power of the two's secret technique was shocking, and Sun Mingyue was severely injured. Again! Chunjinji shouted. The two of them activated their secret technique again, and attacked Sun Mingyue again. Sun Mingyue wanted to use her secret technique, but it was too late. She could only use her divine light fist to counter the attack. Bam bam! Sun Mingyue flew backward again. The white veil could not cover the blood that she spat out. She fell limply on the ground, motionless, as if she was already dead. Chunjinji smiled and pursed his lips. Master, our luck is exceptionally good today. We might really be able to find that miraculous fruit. Monk Luan Ming smiled bitterly. He pressed his palms together and said no more. Chunjinji slowly walked towards Sun Mingyue and looked down at her. Sun Mingyue was still covered by the white veil, but it was already dyed red by the blood that stuck to her face. It looked rather scary. Sigh. Chunjinji shook his head. What a pity for such a beauty. Monk Luan Ming said, Your Majesty, have you thought of how to deal with Miss Song's anger? Master, you don't have to worry too much. No matter how crazy Song Wanqing is, she's still easier to deal with than these two fellas. She has the heavenly rules, Chunjinji said. If Song Wanqing really wanted to take revenge on the Qiu dynasty, the heavenly rules would stop her. He would hide the important people and escape Song Wanqing's revenge. Killing Sun Mingyue was the most important thing. Sigh. Monk Luan Ming shook his head and sighed. When Chuli woke up, he realized that he was lying in a cave. He looked around and noticed the evil dark dragon's presence. It was sleeping soundly at the side, and there were no signs of it waking up. Chuli thought about it for a moment and recalled the scene from before. The evil dark dragon had swallowed him, but it had not eaten him. Instead, it had sent him here. This had really surprised him. His grudge with the evil dark dragon was too great. Could it be that the evil dark dragon was repaying him for saving its life because he saved it? He shook his head and ignored it for now. He recalled his previous experience. After being heavily injured by the two, he fell into the evil dark dragon's mouth and died. He was still alive because the life and death scripture was working again. He was really lucky. The towering life and death tree suddenly appeared in the void of his mind. The tree seemed to be thicker and taller. Its branches seemed to have entered the sky beyond the sky. With a thought, the energy of extreme yang surged. He could actually absorb the spiritual energy of the sky beyond the sky. It was no different from absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Although it was not as pure as the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, it was faster. It was several times faster than the supreme diamond scripture. With a thought, the energy of extreme yin and extreme yang surged in endlessly. It was a pity that the life and death scripture only improved by one level. It could not directly absorb the rich energy. If it improved, he would not need to cultivate with Sun Mingyue. He was sitting cross-legged and immersed in the mysteries of the life and death scripture. Suddenly, the supreme diamond in the void of his mind opened its eyes and sensed that Sun Mingyue was in danger. Her life was in danger and she was not far away. With a thought, he immediately walked out and came to the entrance of the cave. He saw the water outside. There was not a single drop of water in the cave. Outside the cave was a clear pool. He was under the pool. He did not care to explore the mystery of why the water did not enter the cave. He immediately went out. He shot up like a fish and instantly drilled out of the water. He saw Chen Jinji slowly walking to Sun Mingyue's side. He raised his right palm and was about to hit it with a green light. Chu Li swung both his hands. With a light whistle, two cold lights shot towards Chen Jinji and Monk Luanming. Chapter 1459. Both of them were extremely fearful of Chu Li's flying blades. They had not fully recovered from their previous injuries, so they did not dare to attack him with all their might. They were afraid that he would be stabbed again. Why isn't this kid dead? Chen Jinji's expression was ugly. Monk Luanming placed his palms together and frowned. If you don't kill the tiger, you will be harmed instead. They all understood this principle. Killing him this time had already created a death grudge. If he didn't die, he would definitely take revenge. They weren't afraid of him, but they were afraid that he would take revenge on his family and disciples. What should we do, master? Chen Jinji said. No matter what, we must kill these two. Otherwise, we won't be able to bear the consequences. Monk Luanming shook his head. Your Majesty, we can't possibly enter the pond, right? No. Chen Jinji shook his head, and then his spirits rose. But after taking a few hits from us, he probably won't survive. As soon as they entered the pond, their lives were in danger. That monster was truly too powerful, they were no match for it. But Almsgiver Chu is alive and kicking. Monk Luanming sighed. Chen Jinji frowned. It's good that Chu Li is alive, but I'm afraid that Sun Mingyue won't die. Song Wanqing won't let this go. We have to prepare for the worst. Sigh. This poor monk understands. Monk Luanming sighed and said, Vengeance breeds vengeance, when will it ever end? Your Majesty, we've all fallen into karma, and we can't escape from it. Namo Amitba. Chen Jinji snorted and said, Master, there's no need to be discouraged. As long as we work together, even if Song Wanqing comes, we won't be afraid. Monk Luanming nodded slowly. They were not afraid of what would happen to Sun Mingyue and Chu Li. If Sun Mingyue did not die, the two of them would join hands again, and with the addition of Sun Mingyue, there would be endless trouble. At this point, they could only think of a way to kill Chu Li or Sun Mingyue. It would be best if both of them died. How do we find a way to kill the two of them? Chen Jinji sighed. We can only guard here. They can't stay in the lake forever, can they? What if he stays inside forever? Monk Luanming said. Chen Jinji smiled and said, That's good. They can't take revenge anyway. That's right. Monk Luanming smiled and nodded. He could not wait for Chu Li and Sun Mingyue to stay in the pool and not come out. That would save him a lot of trouble. Your Majesty, we've found it. Someone suddenly shouted. Chen Jinji was overjoyed and hurriedly used his qing gong to leap into the depths of the forest. The four experts stood together and looked down. Below them was a round well. The mouth of the well was so narrow that only one person could pass through. It was hidden by the leaves. At this moment, the leaves were pushed aside, revealing the dark mouth of the well. At first glance, it looked like a snake's hole, but the situation inside could not be seen. Chunjinji floated over and asked in surprise, "You found it?" One of the Imperial House officials pointed at the deep well. "Is it in there?" "Oh." Chunjinji looked at the well and turned to Monk Luanming. "What do you think, master?" Monk Luanming shook his head. "I can't see through it. I can only go in and find out." Chunjinji frowned and thought for a moment. "I'll do it." "Your Majesty." The 4 Imperial House high officials quickly shook their heads. "Your Majesty, how can you take such a risk? Let me go." One of the Imperial House's officials said in a low voice, "In my opinion, there might be a strange beast. It might be a snake." Sigh. Chunjinji sighed. "All right then. Thank you, Elder Su." The Imperial House high official dived into the well without hesitation and disappeared. After a while, High Official Su's voice could be heard. "Your Majesty, Brother Zhao and the rest are inside." Chunjinji asked, "High Official Zhao and the rest?" "Yes. I thought they had already died in the monster's stomach. I didn't expect them to still be alive. However, they are all injured and need to be treated quickly." "I'll go down." Chunjinji nodded and dived into the deep well. After a while, Chunjinji floated out and said, "They are fine. Everyone, go back to your work." The crowd spread out again and continued their search. Monk Luanming looked at Chunjinji. Chunjinji shook his head. "They are fine. However, their injuries are severe and they can't move." "How did they avoid the monster?" Monk Luanming asked. Chunjinji said, "When they fell, the monster didn't come out. It might have been sleeping. Then, they went ashore and fell into the well while looking for food. They were injured and starved for a few days." "Could it be that they can't come up?" Monk Luanming asked. Chunjinji shook his head. "It's too deep down. Plus, they don't have any inner energy and are injured." "I'll go down and take care of them," Monk Luanming said. There were masters from the reincarnation temple down there too. He was worried and wanted to take a closer look. Chunjinji nodded. "Master, take care of them. I'll continue searching." Monk Luanming pressed his palms together and dived into the well. He was wary of Chunjinji, but he knew that Chunjinji wouldn't harm him. They needed to work together to deal with Song Wanqing. If Chunjinji harmed him, it would be the same as cutting off one of his arms. Chunjinji continued to walk around the forest, trying to find the strange fruit. He carried Sun Mingyue and dived into the pool, feeling strange. Logically, these people should have been poisoned when they got close to the evil nether dragon. When he and Sun Mingyue fell together, they were deeply affected by the perverted poison. That was how they ended up cultivating the supreme diamond scripture. Without the perverted poison, even if they saw the supreme diamond scripture, they wouldn't cultivate it. However, the evil nether dragon he saw this time was different from before. It didn't emit the perverted poison and was much stronger. His omniscient mirror couldn't scan the deep well. There was something strange about the well that blocked the omniscient mirror's view. He couldn't help but guess that the evil nether dragon's current change was because it ate those grandmasters. He immediately shook his head. Previously, he wanted to kill the evil nether dragon because it would eat people again after eating them. Now, he changed his mind. After all, it didn't eat him when it could, and saved him instead. Bang! He rushed into the cave. The surrounding air was fresh, but there was still no spiritual energy. He glanced around and saw 3 strange trees in the cave. At first glance, they looked like pine trees. They were short and twisted like a flying dragon. Unfortunately, there were no fruits or flowers. He took 2 steps forward to investigate. It was possible that they had fruits, but they were eaten by the evil nether dragon. Woo! The evil nether dragon, who was lying on the side of the tree, opened its eyes and roared at him. Chuli smiled and took 2 steps back. He knew that these 3 pine trees were its treasures. While he was doing this, he channeled his energy to heal Sun Mingyue. The Grandmaster's spiritual energy kept surging in her body, trying to heal her injuries. However, it didn't work. The two strange palm energies were abnormally pure. The Grandmaster's spiritual energy couldn't melt them. They were unscrupulously destroying Sun Mingyue's body. If this continued, her life would be in danger. He sat cross-legged and placed Sun Mingyue in front of him. Her clothes were as white as snow and her veil was red. Chapter 1460. He looked at Sun Mingyue quietly and took a deep breath. Without hesitation, he took off her white shirt, revealing her jade-like body. He also took off his white robe and hugged her in his arms. He kissed her red lips and breathed a sigh of relief before he started to activate the Supreme Diamond Scripture. The two of them were extremely familiar with each other's bodies. As if it was a conditioned reflex, her body immediately became warm and soft when Chuli hugged her tightly. As Chuli activated the Supreme Titanium Scripture, she followed suit. Thus, everything happened naturally as if the conditions were right and the conditions were right. The evil dark dragon slowly slid out and entered the pool. It felt uncomfortable with the surging energy around them and wanted to escape. As time passed, the two gradually entered a good state. As the Supreme Diamond Scripture circulated, her injuries healed quickly. Chu Li's injuries were the same. 2 hours later, both of them recovered. However, they did not let go of each other and continued to activate the Supreme Diamond Scripture. The 7 chakras were filled with mellow energy that circulated between the 3 chakras. Their bodies became stronger and stronger until a certain moment when they naturally let go. She put her clothes back on and her beautiful body was wrapped in white again. She went outside to wash her face and came back. Her face was like a peach blossom, bright and beautiful. Her bright eyes looked around and sized up the cave. She did not expect there to be such a cave at the bottom of the pool. Almost no one could find it. What was more amazing was that it could block the water. Chuli sat in front of the 3 pine trees and placed his hands on them. He felt the strange energy surging from the trees. It was not inferior to the purity of the yin-yang fruit tree. It was obvious that the trees had produced spirit fruits that were eaten by the evil dark dragon. No wonder the evil dark dragon became stronger. It had a fortuitous encounter. He shook his head and smiled. Sun Mingyue sat opposite him, elegant and calm. "Why did you come here?" Chuli said, "To find the evil dark dragon." "You want to kill it?" Sun Mingyue frowned. Chuli said, "I'm cultivating the spirit snake technique of Goddess Attraction Mountain. The last level needs dragon energy." "Dragon energy?" Sun Mingyue scoffed. "The evil dark dragon is also a dragon?" Chuli nodded. "He can barely be considered a dragon. Although his bloodline is low, he still has dragon energy. It's enough to cultivate the spirit snake technique. What about you?" "I found out that you were already dead, so I came to help you," Sun Mingyue said. "I planned to bury you properly." Chuli smiled. "Thank you very much. I'm the one who dragged you into this." Sun Mingyue's face darkened. "They actually dared to come down. It's to look for our fortuitous encounter. I've told Chunjinji that we've eaten the miraculous fruit. He's digging deep to find it." Chuli shook his head. Sun Mingyue frowned and asked, "Why did you tell him?" Chuli smiled. "Find something for him to do, or else he'll only think about dealing with us." "What if we find it?" Sun Mingyue frowned. Chuli said, "He can't find it. Even if he did, it would be useless." The cave where the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture was located was halfway up the mountain. If it were not for the omniscient mirror, it would have been impossible to find the place. Even if he dug 3 feet into the ground, he would only find himself in the valley. He did not expect to find it there. Moreover, even if he did find it, he wouldn't be able to see the yin-yang fruit. He would only be happy for nothing. "I don't want them to find that place and disturb the 2 seniors," Sun Mingyue said. Chu Li pondered for a while, and understood what Sun Mingyue meant. Once they found the cave and saw the two seniors, Chen Jinji and Monk Luanming, might be able to guess the technique that Chu Li and Sun Mingyue were cultivating. If they announced it to the world, she could forget about being a saint anymore. He stood up and said, "If that's the case, let's chase them out." He was very confident now. The two of them together were more powerful than an enlightened master. If they had the help of the evil nether dragon, they might even be able to kill the two of them. All right. Sun Mingyue nodded. The two of them held each other's hands and went out of the cave into the pool. Then, they shot out like two arrows and leaped out of the water. Chu Li suddenly looked up and laughed. "Your Majesty, did you really believe it?" "Ha!" Chen Jinji was standing in the forest with a gloomy face. He suspected that Chu Li was fooling him and that there was no miraculous fruit at all. When he heard Chu Li's words, he suddenly turned around and glared at him. He shouted, "Chu Li!" When he saw that Sun Mingyue had also recovered and was in good spirits, he was moved. When he and Master Luanming combined their palms to injure them, they would definitely die. Yet, such serious injuries were healed in half a day. It was truly miraculous and not something that could be achieved with martial arts. Such a miraculous healing method could only be obtained by consuming the miraculous fruit. It seemed that the miraculous fruit was not in the valley but in the pool. Chu Li laughed. "Your Majesty, it seems like you really want to find that miraculous fruit." "Haha, unfortunately, you can't find it no matter how hard you look. There's no miraculous fruit at all." "Humph, Chu Li, you're really tenacious," Chen Jinji said coldly. "You're still alive." He saw with his own eyes that the evil nether dragon swallowed Chu Li in one gulp. Not only did he not die, but he also saved Sun Mingyue. Now that Sun Mingyue was alive and well, there must be a miraculous fruit hidden down there. It might even be with Chu Li. When he thought of this, he no longer hesitated and flew toward Chu Li. Chu Li turned around and smiled at Sun Mingyue. "I wonder what it's like to kill an enlightened master. Will I be punished?" Sun Mingyue shook her head. "So far, no enlightened master has been killed." Chu Li smiled. "Seems like enlightened masters are hard to kill." Sun Mingyue nodded lightly and stared at Chen Jinji, who was gliding over. Bang! Chu Li did not even turn his head. He directly met Chen Jinji with his palm. When their palms collided, Chen Jinji flew backward. He glided and stood still. The grass under his feet fluttered. His force was like an iron plow that cut through the grass, but it only destroyed the green grass. There were only shallow marks left on the ground. Chen Jinji's face was extremely gloomy. Chu Li's palm was stronger than him. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. "That's all you've got." In the 10 absolute vitality sealing formation, enlightened masters were weakened. However, Chu Li and Sun Mingyue's supreme diamond scripture were not damaged. Under such circumstances, Chen Jinji seemed vulnerable. Sun Mingyue could feel Chen Jinji's strength through Chu Li. She looked over in shock. Monk Luanming saw that the situation was not good. He glided to Chen Jinji's side and pressed his palms together. "Namo Amitba. Almsgiver Chu, Almsgiver Sun, I'm very happy that both of you are fine." Chu Li smiled. "Monk Luanming, you're too hypocritical." Sun Mingyue scoffed. "Monk, are you trying to join forces?" Sigh. Monk Luanming shook his head. "What is sown will bear fruit. I can only do this. Please forgive me, almsgivers." "We don't blame you," Chu Li said. "Let's fight." As soon as he finished speaking, he attacked Monk Luanming from afar. Sun Mingyue punched at Chen Jinji. Bam 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 bam. Deafening explosions came from between the four of them. The grass on the ground flew everywhere. Although it was not protected by the 10 absolute vitality sealing formation, the ground was extremely hard. The four of them could not even leave a hole in it. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue actually suppressed Chen Jinji and Monk Luanming to the point where they could only fight back. They could not attack. After more than 20 moves, the two of them knew that they had to use their secret skills. Bam bam! A shocking sound was heard. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue shook their heads and smiled. Chen Jinji and Monk Luanming's secret skills were no threat to them. They were still at a disadvantage in front of the Supreme Diamond Scripture. The secret skills could only last for a limited time. As long as they could endure it, the two of them would definitely die. Chapter 1461. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue lightly extended their palms. They looked indifferent, but they had a tacit understanding in their hearts. They were looking for an opportunity for the two to relax. When the two of them shook hands, their minds were faintly connected. They didn't need to speak or even look at each other to know each other's thoughts. Both of them used the Supreme Vajra scripture to activate the Divine Light Fist. Its power was astonishing. Moreover, they did not unleash the full power of the Divine Light Fist at the beginning. They were holding back to wear down Chen Jinji and Monk Luanming's secret technique. Suddenly sensing that Chen Jinji and Monk Luanming were slightly unstable, the two of them abruptly unleashed their Divine Light Fist to the maximum. Bang! Chen Jinji and Monk Luanming were sent flying. They flew for 10 meters in the air before crashing into the stone wall and bouncing back to the ground. There was blood at the corner of their mouth. They were all injured by this blow. Even if their secret techniques were shockingly powerful, they still couldn't withstand a full-force punch. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue suddenly sped up and appeared in front of Chen Jinji, both of them punching out at the same time. Bang! Both of their fists hit Chen Jinji at the same time. Chen Jinji hit the stone wall again and bounced back down. If it was a normal stone wall, it would have been imprinted on the stone wall, hanging on the stone wall. Unfortunately, the stone here was harder than metal, so Chen Jinji could not leave an imprint. Pfft! Chen Jinji spat out a mouthful of blood, his face like metal. Stop! Monk Luanming stood in front of Chen Jinji and put his palms together. Namo Amitabha! Benefactors, please stop! Chu Li threw a punch without saying a word, and so did Sun Mingyue. Bang! Monk Luanming was also sent flying, spitting out an arrow of blood in the air. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue continuously threw punches at Chen Jinji, wanting to kill him. Bang 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 bang! Chen Jinji was like a rag doll, bouncing up, falling to the ground, bouncing up again, falling to the ground again. Blood gushed out of his mouth like a fountain, and he was completely powerless to fight back. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue frowned as they felt a strange force circulating in his body, protecting his last shred of vitality. No matter how hard they tried, they could not destroy this vitality. They just could not take his life. Could it be that enlightened masters are immortal? Chu Li shook his head. Sun Mingyue said, "That's impossible, right? Did your master mention it?" "No." Sun Mingyue frowned and said, "But it seems like there's no one in this world who can kill an enlightened master. Even if it's a battle between enlightened masters, it's usually a lose-lose situation. Even if they can't defeat their opponent, they still have the ability to escape." Chu Li furrowed his brows. If both sides are heavily injured, even an enlightened master can't kill them? They can't be killed. Sun Mingyue shook her head. In the past 1,000 years, there hasn't been an Empyrean god who has been killed. Chu Li scoffed. Then we must still kill him today. Let's give it a try, Sun Mingyue said. While the two of them were talking, they kept throwing punches. Chen Jinji was heavily injured, but he did not die. Monk Luanming was also in the same state. He was beaten to death by the two of them, but he did not die. Chu Li frowned and said, "Forget it, I can only use the sword." He pulled out the modesty sword and thrust it towards Chen Jinji's chest. Ding! Chen Jinji's chest was protected by the heart-protecting mirror, so it didn't break. Chu Li thrust his sword at Chen Jinji's throat again. Ding! An invisible force shook off Chu Li's long sword. The omniscient mirror saw a golden light shoot out from between Chen Jinji's eyebrows. Others couldn't see it, but the omniscient mirror could see it clearly. Chu did not believe it and thrust his sword again. Ding! The modesty sword was deflected again. Chunjinji suddenly disappeared from the spot. Chu stared at the spot where he disappeared and did not say a word. Sun Mingyue frowned. How is this possible? Chu turned his head and stared at Monk Luanming. Monk Luanming's face was pale. He was unusually weak. The corner of his mouth and chin were dyed red with blood. He was beaten by Chu and Sun Mingyue to the point where he was barely breathing, but he was still conscious. He smiled and chanted the name of Buddha with difficulty. Namo Amitabha Buddha, Chu smiled. Do you know the reason? Is there a secret skill that can save your life? If there is, why bother using it? An enlightened master does have the ability to save his life, Monk Luanming said weakly. It's impossible to be killed in this world, you two don't have to waste your inner energy anymore. Chu shook his head and smiled. How can there be such a good thing? Can an enlightened master really not die? Monk Luanming nodded slowly. A monk doesn't lie. Chu said, you must not be telling the truth. Maybe there are only a few chances to save your life, maybe only one or two. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Monk Luanming shook his head. Chu smiled. Looks like we were right. I want to see how many more times he can escape. Monk, kill yourself so that we don't have to waste our time. Monk Luanming shook his head. Chu raised his sword and stabbed. Ding! A white light shot out from between Monk Luanming's eyebrows. After hitting the modesty sword, Monk Luanming suddenly disappeared. Chu and Sun Mingyue were prepared this time. They felt a strange force descending from the void, a force that made their hearts palpitate, and they did not dare to approach. Seeing Monk Luanming escape, Chu shook his head. How infuriating! Sun Mingyue frowned. You want to continue chasing after them? Chu said, of course, it's a rare opportunity. Once they leave this valley, they will recover quickly. Both of us can't kill them. Forget it. Sun Mingyue shook her head. Are you willing to let go just like that? Chu was surprised. Sun Mingyue said, we can't do anything to them. Don't get yourself killed. Chu laughed. I see. You want stability. You're afraid that you won't be able to take over the enlightened master's position in a year. Sun Mingyue glanced at him, her eyes watery. Chu smiled and shook his head. All right, if that's the case, we'll let these two go. Send the rest up so that they don't cause trouble down there. Sun Mingyue nodded. Chu jumped into the pool and found the evil dark dragon in the cave. Looking at the ugly appearance of the evil dark dragon, he did not hate it anymore. After all, the evil dark dragon had saved his life. Its strength had increased greatly, but it was still no match for Chu. The supreme diamond scripture could restrain the evil dark dragon. That was why it was trapped here for more than 1,000 years and could not escape. He used the omniscient mirror to transmit his thoughts to the evil dark dragon. The evil dark dragon's intelligence was not inferior to a human's. Seeing Chu lightly pressing on it, it did not dodge. Chu converted the pure yang spiritual energy into the inner energy of the spirit snake technique and injected it into the evil dark dragon's body. The evil dark dragon closed its eyes comfortably. The warmth and comfort enveloped it. It wanted to stay like this forever. Chu used the inner energy of the spirit snake technique to sense the evil dark dragon's body. Its organs and meridians appeared clearly in his mind. He searched for the trace of dragon energy. The evil dark dragon's meridian was weak. It was not easy to find the dragon energy. He kept injecting the inner energy of the spirit snake technique. Sun Mingyue sat by the pool and waited for a day and night. She still did not see Chu come out. She frowned and pondered. She did not know what happened to Chu. It must not be smooth. It seemed that the spirit snake technique was not easy to cultivate. Chapter 1462. Time flowed by like water. With the infusion of the spirit serpent art, the evil dark dragon unknowingly became stronger. The inner force of the spirit serpent art was the best medicine for it. With every bit of spirit serpent art inner force, it would become stronger. Its original weakness gradually disappeared. Chu sighed helplessly. He did not know if what he was doing was right or wrong. The spirit serpent technique had made the evil dark dragon stronger. If it continued to grow stronger, it might even be able to destroy the 10 absolute vitality lock formation. If they really escaped from the valley, it would definitely be a catastrophe. He was extremely patient. As time passed, the evil underworld dragon became stronger, and he could vaguely sense a trace of draconic energy. Unfortunately, it was faintly discernible. He couldn't truly sense it, only feeling that it was currently appearing. With the life and death scripture, the spiritual chi in the heavens beyond heaven was almost endless. Furthermore, his soul was strong, so he didn't feel tired at all. Thus, he continued to channel the inner force of the spirit snake incantation into the evil nether dragon. The evil dark dragon suddenly let out a low roar. Chu could tell that this howl was different from the previous one. There was a subtle change in the sound, and there was an additional metallic sound. The clanging sound was even more shocking, making people want to cover their ears and run away. Chu was overjoyed. He sensed the appearance of the dragon energy, so he activated the spirit serpent technique to the extreme and absorbed the dragon energy. As soon as the dragon energy entered his body, it immediately circulated within his body. It followed the 9th level of the heart technique and quickly completed 9 circulatory cycles. Then, Chu looked up to the sky and let out a long howl. The howl sounded like a dragon's roar. The spirit serpent incantation had finally been perfected. A mellow aura circulated around his body. Although it was not as pure as the supreme diamond scripture, it was far purer than before. He used the spiritual chi of the outer heavens, so his starting point was far better than other heart technique. The evil underworld dragon let out a dragon roar. Chu patted its head and glided out of the cave. Soon, he appeared beside the pool. Sun Mingyue sat cross-legged on the grass. She opened her eyes and looked over. Chu smiled and said, "It's a success, thank you." Sun Mingyue snorted and said, "It's finally done. We have to return as soon as possible. This time, you can join Goddess Attraction Mountain, right?" Chu nodded. "Do I really have to cultivate the art of dragon control?" Sun Mingyue slowly floated up and straightened her legs. "Do I really have to cultivate to become a god?" Chu smiled. "Do you think I can do it?" "I'm just reminding you that once you join Goddess Attraction Mountain," Sun Mingyue shook her head and said, "you'll be considered a member of the Fu dynasty." Chu raised his eyebrows. "If I become an enlightened god, will I become the Fu dynasty's enlightened master?" "Yes." Sun Mingyue nodded. Chu laughed and shook his head. "This is really interesting. If you've thought it through, you won't find it interesting." Sun Mingyue glared at him and said, "Do you think the Goddess Attraction Mountain can really take you in?" Chu remained silent. Once he became an inner mountain disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain and became an enlightened master, he would occupy the position of Fu dynasty's enlightened master. However, he was a citizen of the Ji dynasty. Once that happened, the balance between the forces in the world would be broken, and Fu dynasty's status would be in jeopardy. After all, Goddess Attraction Mountain was the leader of Fu dynasty's sections. How could they let something like this happen? The best solution was to not accept Chu into the mountain so that he would not become a citizen of the Fu dynasty. Even if he became an enlightened master, he would still be an enlightened master of the Ji dynasty. The enlightened masters of Goddess Attraction Mountain were different from other enlightened masters. Their cultivation level was higher, and they could suppress several others. The Fu dynasty had been able to dominate the world and suppress the other countries not only because of Fu dynasty's tyrannical strength, but also because of Goddess Attraction Mountain's enlightened master's prestige. Once Chu Li became Goddess Attraction Mountain's enlightened master, he would never side with Fu Dynasty. Instead, Ji Dynasty would rise and take over Fu Dynasty's position. Even if Goddess Attraction Mountain agreed, Fu Dynasty would never let that happen. Sun Minghui said, "As long as Goddess Attraction Mountain isn't stupid, they won't let you become Fu Dynasty's enlightened master." Chu Li shook his head and smiled. That might not be the case. Goddess Attraction Mountain's enlightened masters were different from other enlightened masters. As far as he knew, Goddess Attraction Mountain's enlightened masters could enter and exit the Outland. As such, Goddess Attraction Mountain's enlightened masters were the easiest to control because the enlightened masters of the previous generation could also stay on Goddess Attraction Mountain, and even the previous generation could stay. As such, there was no need to worry about the new enlightened master stirring up trouble. Sun Minghui gave him a sidelong glance. "You're bold, I hope so." Chu Li nodded slowly. His future was unpredictable, and it depended on Goddess Attraction Mountain's opinion, especially the current enlightened master, Zhou Dunley. "Let's go, let's head out first," Sun Minghui said. The two of them left Ten Despair Valley, and Chu Li's expression changed slightly. Song Wanqing stood at the peak of the mountain, looking at the two of them indifferently. Her gaze fell on their tightly clasped hands. Sun Minghui struggled slightly, and Chu Li let go. "Master," Sun Minghui called out shyly. Song Wanqing glared at Chu Li and said coldly, "What are you doing here instead of cultivating at Goddess Attraction Mountain?" Chu Li gave a fist salute and smiled. "Thank you for your concern, Senior Song. You've cultivated Goddess Attraction Mountain's Spirit Serpent technique now, and you're still full of confidence to cultivate the Dragon Taming technique?" Song Wanqing laughed coldly. "Master, he's already cultivated the Spirit Serpent technique," Sun Minghui said. Song Wanqing frowned as she sized Chu Li up. "He really cultivated it?" Chu Li nodded slowly and smiled. "I was lucky." "Hypocrite," Song Wanqing scoffed. "You must be very proud of yourself, aren't you?" Chu Li said, "I was really lucky. If it wasn't for the coincidence, I wouldn't have been able to cultivate it. The Spirit Serpent technique is really hard to cultivate." Song Wanqing said lightly, "The Spirit Serpent technique is hard to cultivate, and the Dragon Taming technique is 10 times harder than the Spirit Serpent technique. I hope you'll be able to cultivate it. Even if you do, don't wait for the moon to rise to the sky to cultivate it." Chu Li smiled and shook his head. "Go, what are you still doing here?" Song Wanqing scoffed. Chu Li gave a fist salute and turned to look at Sun Minghui. "Then I'll take my leave." Song Wanqing waved her hand and Sun Minghui nodded at him. Chu Li was not in a hurry to return to Goddess Attraction Mountain. He first went back to the High Duke's public house, but Xiao Qi and Xiao Shi were not there. Xue Ling gently welcomed him under the setting sun. Her clothes were as white as snow, and her face was as white as jade. "Master." Xue Ling curtsied. Chu Li nodded. The two of them were standing in the Glories Will courtyard. Chu Li sized up the Glories Will tree and nodded in satisfaction. He came to the front of another soaring grass, and activated the life and death scripture. The spiritual energy of the Outland instantly surged into the soaring grass. The spiritual energy of the purest yang penetrated the soaring grass, and it instantly withered. Soon, it lost its vitality and died. Chu Li frowned as he looked at the soaring grass that had turned into ashes. He shook his head to himself. It seemed that the spiritual energy of the Outland was not that magical. "Master?" Xue Ling went forward and asked softly, "Is there anything?" Chu Li shook his head. He was thinking about whether he could convert the purest yang spiritual energy into mellow energy. The mellow energy should be able to stimulate the growth of the grass. When he thought about this, a mellow energy floated out of his umbilical chakra, and he used the life and death scripture to channel it to another soaring grass. Immediately, the soaring grass grew rapidly, and in a short time, it felt like a year had passed. Chu looked at the soaring grass in shock, and could not help but secretly admire its wonders. Master, Lu Yurong sent a message. She wants to meet you, Xueling said softly. Chu turned to look at her. Xueling's eyes were as clear as water, and she said softly, "It's been 3 days." Chu nodded slowly. Meet. Did something big happen at the Ren Public House? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.